Let's get into talking tobacco. We got Brothers Broadleaf on the pod today. Man, we start rolling some blunts. We talk about the barrel series. We talk about connoisseur tobacco and pairing the best flower in the world with the best tobacco in the world. If you're a cultivator, growgeneration.com, and it doesn't matter, fave and under canopy lighting, drip, hydro, raw rolling papers, Plantsman Group, and Hemper. We get you hooked up on FSOTD.com. If you just go to FSOTD, all the stuff we have on here, you can get the newest discount code and get hooked up. Let's roll some barrel series. Let's get into it.
We're cigar makers. We're fourth generation. This is my grandfather and my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather started the business in 1895.
In a premium cigar world, you pay $500 for a box of 20 cigars. If they're all different colors and shades, you're gonna be a pretty bummed out consumer. Is like, why am I paying all this money for lack of consistency? And it's the same mentality for these. Like, I want you to open up a 5-pack of our pearls and they're all the same color. There's something to be said about, I don't think other brands can point towards that consistency, which is what a premium cigar manufacturer does.
We're catering to the true smokers because we are true smokers. We don't want to sell cheap stuff. We want to make sure that the people who care will get good blunts.
We're not here to make a quick buck and get out and go sit on a beach. My brother and I think both have it in our mind that we're never going to retire.
Everything that he wants to do, I don't, and vice versa. And naturally, it just came about that way, you know? So I love what I do. Dawson loves what he does, and I don't think we're ever going to retire.
First Smoke family, we got something special today. Something, I've known these guys for about 2 years now. I followed their journey. It's been unbelievable to be able to watch. I'm always rooting for these guys. We got Brothers Broadleaf on the podcast today. Welcome to First Smoke, boys.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Lance. It's, first off, I have to say it's an absolute honor to see this sign, to see you, just to be in the studio. You know, literally 3 years ago, probably we were watching, well, we would have a, 3 years ago, we were in a, 1,200 square foot trailer sorting cigars, no employees, maybe, 2,000 followers on Instagram, and watching all of our favorite brands, Josh Kesselman and Burner, and, people, you've had legends on this show. So we definitely don't feel like that, but we're absolutely honored to be here, man.
Oh, bro, you guys are legends in this space. I mean, if someone, and it's Paxton and Dawson, by the way, but if someone brings up blunts to me or tobacco, the only thing 99.9% that comes out of my mouth is like, have you guys heard of Brothers Broadleaf? And it's for two reasons. It's that I love that you guys are Florida boys. I fuck with that heavy, that's where we're from. But also, like, I'm such a huge proponent for young entrepreneurs in spaces that are very volatile. There's a lot up against you. You're talking big tobacco.
In our industry, there's not a lot of new cigar brands that come out, especially there's a lot of leaf brands that have come out recently, but truly making cigars, people ask us all the time, why don't we just make flat wraps? And we're cigar makers. We're fourth generation. This is my grandfather and my great-grandfather. My great-grandfather started the business in 1895. He's the first. That's second generation. My father and my uncle run the cigar company today. They're the third, and my brother and I are the fourth, along with my cousin. So, there's not a lot of new cigar brands popping up. And speaking of young entrepreneurship, that 1,200 square foot office that we had, the trailer, double wide trailer, I finished college in that thing. So seeing old videos of it, like I would leave on a Zoom because it was during COVID. Bleep COVID. And, and, Dawson would call me and be like, yo, your teacher's yelling at you. And I'm at the gym and he's sorting cigars. And, so it's a full circle. We love the entrepreneurship, but to also be able to do what our family's been doing for 130 years in our own lane, it's amazing.
But yeah, you're right. There are a lot of like existential threats to both of our industries. And I think tobacco is one that most people don't see as much, like blunt wrap specifically. I mean, we're dealing with, foreign nations and crossing borders with tobacco. And there's a lot of moving pieces that I don't think people really put together. And it's an art just like cannabis. And so it's a challenge just like anything else. Nothing worth doing is easy. But
to the extent, I'll let Dawson elaborate more, but we sell every 21 days. We have a restock on Sunday. Today's Thursday.
We do our drops. It's not by design, unfortunately, but
our cigars were supposed to land 2 weeks ago, and a crane was down in Honduras where the port is. But Dawson was talking to the import people, and just the crazy intercontinental, different countries, things go wrong. And then of course there's, the government stuff and, the FDA, that's always, ever present. And so we share a lot of similarities of, regulations and laws and stuff that we have to follow and taxes, but it's different. And people see it on this podcast a lot because it's cannabis, but the tobacco world, it's freaking different, man. It's different.
Is. And, I don't know how much you want to get into, but sharks in the water, right? And if they smell blood, or if you're the new guy on the block, they're going to test you. And we see this in rolling paper business. We see massive lawsuits getting thrown back and forth. And then you find out most of it is just them wanting to fuck with each other, literally wanting to like press you and be like, let's see if they have the money to fight it.
Weather the storm, right?
Yeah. Let's see if we can get them to drop this product. That's our competing product. Like I do compare it to cannabis, but we're not there yet. As far as I think when federal legalization happens and we get a little bit of opening there, I think we're going to see more of it. But you guys, it's almost like being in big alcohol, in my opinion, where you're stepping into a lane where guys have been making hundreds of millions of dollars for a long time. And the last thing they want is two young guys who are, let's say liberal for probably a lot of the cigar guys. A lot of the tobacco guys are probably like weed. They look at it like, you're going to fuck with my tobacco with weed. They look at you guys like, what are you doing over here? And meanwhile, you're representing the cannabis industry in such a great way as far as like, here's an exceptional product.
We like to believe that a lot of the cigar people that are in our corner, that are true cigar people, not cannabis people, they love what we're doing, and it's funny. You say, people, the cigar guys looking at our tobacco and saying you ruin it with weed. Our main tobacco guy that we work with is like, it kills them because we need the best of the best, stuff that, we have a cigar called the Julius Caesar named after our great grandfather. And our Havana pearls are using the same wrapper as a $19 cigar, and that's not a $19 blunt wrap. And, it's the name of the game. We want the quality, but we're lucky to have great people in our corner and a lot of knowledge and expertise. And we've made a lot of mistakes.
Tons.
That's the small business side. And, but it makes for good stories and great learning lessons. And we're not going to make those mistakes again. But yeah, we have a lot of people in our corner that support us, regardless if they're in the cannabis world or not. My dad specifically, he's our number one supporter. He'll eat some edibles occasionally, but he does not smoke. He's like, I don't want to inhale that shit. And, but every single day he's checking our bank account, seeing, he doesn't know what sales numbers. That's the only metric he goes off of. And he's happy if things are coming in. He'll call us and tell me. And I'm not even we're looking at other metrics, but he loves what we're doing. And I like to think that he's proud, And I like to think that they would be proud too. With this Smoke Dreams book, I had to get you a special one. It's an old print. I don't know when from, but
I think it was printed in 1954. This book right here.
Oh, that's
so it's cool.
For all you listening, get on the YouTube. And the reason I say this is because we add a lot of visuals on the YouTube. So if you are listening to this working and stuff, sometimes episodes, you'll want to hop on the YouTube and be able to see what we're talking about. But yeah, you have this vintage book on the table.
So yeah, we have two books. My great grandfather wrote a book. It's about 68 pages about his life coming to America from Hungary. He boated here, ate canned fish the whole way. And his mom paid like 5 cents a day for him to be an apprentice for cigars. And, started the company that our family owns now back in their barn and in their kitchen. And he would bulk the tobacco there. All of the produce and the bread would start to smell like tobacco. And his mom kicked him out and got his first place. And that's how it started. But I found this book on the table, Smoke Dreams, written by my great grandfather. I had one and I was packing it up to send to you, and I realized it had his signature in it. He wrote to his friend in 1953, 1952?
A couple years before he died.
And I was like, I called my dad immediately. I was like, I can't give this one away. So I need to trade you for another non-signed Smoke Dreams. Yeah. But I want to leave these for you. And
so are you Hungarian?
Technically, yeah. Now the borders changed. Yeah. Oh.
And then did he land in Tampa?
He landed
in Maryland, I want to say. I think he went through Baltimore. I'm pretty sure it was in the book. And
they ended up staying in Cleveland. They lived in Cleveland until 1951, 1953. And it's a crazy freaking story. You know, we were talking earlier about how LA is the mecca for cannabis. Tampa, Ybor specifically, is the mecca for cigars. It's the cigar capital of the world. At the peak, they're rolling 500 million cigars by hand and machine, a day. It's insane.
The passion for tobacco there is on a next level. It's the same with microbreweries, I feel like, in Tampa as well. If you go to Tampa, you cannot get away from the cigar lounges and the like outdoor seating patios that do cigars. And I'm talking, so for people who haven't been there, I'm talking there is humidors and back sections to some of these, like you would picture, any super high-end liquor store where then you get into the real interesting stuff.
Yes. We both worked at a cigar retail spot in Tampa, and they have pre-embargo Cuban cigars. Cuban cigars are illegal, but pre-embargo, you can sell them.
What does that mean?
Like the Cuban embargo means any tobacco can't be imported from Cuba, but any tobacco that was already here before the embargo can. So these cigars are from,
the 60s. Yeah. Early 60s.
Some are even from the Partagas are from the 40s. Yeah. It's crazy.
And would you say, because this isn't like other things, tobacco, does it ages and gets better?
If stored properly. Properly.
There's always gray area.
There's diminishing returns at some point. Yes, sir. For our cigars, not necessarily, we don't want to use any, we were corporate blunt smokers first and foremost. And we were tired of flavors. There was nasty preservatives. The amount of leaves that I've torn because the cigars are made on a machine and they use a glue to adhere it. To peel it off, sometimes you tear the leaf. So we didn't want to add anything to our leaves. So specifically, we want our cigar smoked as fast as possible.
But it's also the premium approach too. I don't know. I'm not trying to toot our own horn, but I don't think anyone's taken a premium cigar approach to blunt wraps. By actually selecting the best of the best, like Paxton was saying, we drive our tobacco buyers crazy because, we're asking for stuff that pretty challenging to get. And
the unicorn tobaccos.
It's forced us to, become a small batch kind of boutique brand, which we're happy to be. We're never going to be the big guys in the big corporate tobacco and volume.
And to interrupt, Dawson and I are still sorting the pearls individually. So they come to us in batches. We're looking for holes. We sit here just like this. And instead of microphones, we have lights and we look through cigars all day and listen to probably thousands of hours of podcasts. A lot of first smoke of the day.
We do all right.
Yeah. If you've ever smoked a pearl, there's 100% chance that my brother and myself have, quality controlled it personally. But that's why we're here. We came from buying stuff we didn't want to smoke. So we don't want to sell things. We don't want to become like the companies that inspired us to do this in the first place. It's a labor of love. But
it's a lot of manual labor. But
it's not sexy.
We have fun and we know it, it's at some point we're going to have to get things dialed in and it's not scalable, but we don't want to really scale giant. And that's why talking about earlier in the conversation, the big boys coming after us, like we're not 0.1% of market share.
Not yet.
We're catering to the true smokers because we are true smokers. We don't want to sell cheap stuff. We want to make sure that the people who care will get good blunts,
This was built on passion.
1,000%.
You can tell that from any of your social media or talking to you. I can tell immediately, like, oh man, that's why, honestly, I guarantee your family's so passionate about your success is because you're passionate about it. Let's talk QC. Because the amount of videos I've seen of you guys QCing your product is nonstop. It's probably your biggest job.
Yeah, it takes up most of our time. We've obviously gotten a lot faster at it. So for full start to finish. And we can talk about the tobacco side as well, because that's another nightmare. But our cigars come in clear bags of 140, and we sit here with lamps and, grab a handful. Yes, our hands are washed, and we put on a podcast and we sit there for hours and hours and hours and hours. And we've been doing this ever since 2020. We did that originally in my mom's kitchen, and there's a progression of it. At first, we didn't realize that we could store our cigars in, big humidifiers. So we would have my mom sitting there ready with the 5-packs. We didn't want our cigars to dry out. So Dawson and I open up the bags, sort them, immediately throw them to my mom. She packs them up. We have some shitty hand sealer. And, it's just a progression on that, and slowly got an office in October of 2020 during COVID, and stayed there for 2.5 years. But yeah, so for the QC, it's
like, what are you looking for? You're looking for tears. You're looking for what? Veins? Like,
we can back it up really far, because it all starts with the tobacco and the selection. And there's different grades that you can purchase. Ideally, the tobacco we buy doesn't have holes, and that's a big one. That's a good place to start. So assuming you get that, dialed in, then you hopefully can build some redundancy in the actual production. So there's some quality control on their end. But even then, it's, we're human. There's going to be things that slip through. And then once we get them in Tampa for our last kind of round of quality control, to answer your question, we're looking for texture, color, the vein direction, holes, and we're making these decisions in, less than a second. You got to do it thousands of times every day. So it's like, it becomes second nature. But, in a premium cigar world, you pay $500 for a box of 20 cigars. If they're all different colors and shades, you're going to be a pretty bummed out consumer. Is like, why am I paying all this money for lack of consistency? And it's the same mentality for these. Like, I want you to open up a 5-pack of our pearls and they're all the same color. It's like, there's something to be said about, I don't think other brands can kind of point towards that consistency, which is what a premium cigar manufacturer.
First Smoke family, ProMix is storming the cocoa market, and they're one of the few companies integrating mycorrhizae and bacillus into their loose core products. You can expect the same level of consistency, quality in their full core line. What's cool is ProMix is one of the few companies in the market to integrate active ingredients directly into the products. In the US, their loose fill products contain mycorrhizae, while in Canada, they include both mycorrhizae and bacillus. This means you're getting products that will help maximize your plant's full potential, ensuring to always reach your highest level. And if you're looking to get your hands on some of the brand new drops of ProMix with the bacillus, with the mycorrhizae, go to pthorticulture.com or go to the ProMix Instagram and their socials to get connected so you don't miss the brand new drops. Consistency, ProMix. First Smoke family, we are linked up with the Plantsman Group, and so should you. Making sure your IPM predatory bugs and beneficial insects get to you just like they should, alive and hungry, ready to do work in your garden. Doesn't matter the size, the Plantsman Group has you covered. Plantsman Group is a grower-focused company working to bridge the knowledge gap in cannabis regarding the use of beneficial insects to control pests. They will make a custom IPM plan just for the First Smoke family for free. Provide top-tier customer service and offer free shipping on orders over 200. Go to theplantsmangroup.com/firstsmoke and get hooked up. Trust me, it's a game changer. Let's get back into it. It's interesting because it's almost like the same thing that parallels the cannabis industry of like people want consistency with a living organism.
Yeah.
And so now you're asking about, something that's grown outside too now, which is tobacco. In different parts of, I'm sure even the farm on this side of Cuba and then the farm, on the other side of Cuba, just, 5 miles down the road or 10 miles down the road, whatever, the colors, and I'm guessing even the oils and the smells could be different. So that's really interesting because it's not even like quality. Sometimes you're just looking for consistency. Like the quality has to be here, but man, wow, that's asking a lot.
Yeah. And then do it year after year after year after year.
And we're Brothers Broadleaf. We started out with the black packs. You talk about consistency. This is Connecticut broadleaf grown in Connecticut. There is a limit on how much you can get. It's super dark, super thick. It's naturally sweet tobacco, but it's robust. And, we started with one product. We knew that we would never, ever, ever be able to get ample amount of this. And you talk about needing consistency. If we wanted more tobacco, we would have to go with lower quality just to get more. And then there's a wider range of, color and everything. So that's what pushed us to find other tobaccos that are more widely grown, like our Havana tobacco grown in Ecuador. And, there's more of it, law of scale. If we need the best 1% and they grow a small batch, that's tiny, tiny. But if they grow a lot of it, 1% is something that we can actually make enough cigars to hopefully stay in stock on our website one day,
Where's some of the best tobacco in the world come from?
Debatable, probably the Dominican.
It's very subjective and it could be politicized. People have their favorite countries, but what's happened in the premium cigar market is there's what they call the old world cigars and new world cigars. The old world is traditionally just Cuban tobacco, which you can't get in the United States. You can get it in Europe and other countries, but that's the old world mentality. The new world cigars, which are, booming, is your Dominican, Nicaragua, Ecuador, Honduras. Those are the more emerging markets for tobacco, both production and growing too. So, but I'd say Dominican, Nicaragua are probably the top two right now.
Interesting. And I'm sure that has to do with multiple factors, not just climate. I'm sure it also has to do with pricing of labor and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. And, our family has, Tampa made cigars, Tampa machine hand assisted, Tampa handmade, and then they have a Dominican and a Nicaraguan line. It's about a 2-to-1. The Nicaraguans would land around $6 to $8, where the Dominican premiums are, $14 to $20. So a Dominican premium cigars definitely tends to be more expensive, at least in our family's case.
And then you do a lot of R&D where I'm guessing you're so passionate and walk me through this. You're ordering different types of leaves and you're trying them with product, with actual cannabis to see which ones you like the best.
Yeah. We're super lucky. The cigar world's so small in Tampa. It's just like in LA, everyone here in the weed scene. Our tobacco person has a daughter who was born a day before me, actually a day after me. Known us our entire life. So he loves us and he's always calling us and getting different tobaccos and stuff. And, luckily our family has a factory too, where we can go and pick up whatever tobacco they're using. So yeah, and we were just in Nicaragua a few weeks ago where we tried some cool Brazilian tobacco. So we're always getting stuff and, our guy will throw it and say, smoke a blunt out of this, just roll it up and let us know what you think. And
I love that.
It's really, really cool because then with that, there's all the creative that you can go into making a new product, or will people like this, and just trying to make the best experience possible. And that's where our specialty could lie in, is we have our own factory and we can kind of do what we want. So we have a lot of fun things in the future where, we can do a lot of cool things that I don't want to divulge now, but it's just an extra step to make cool shit. That's what we want to do. Yeah. We want to make cool shit that we want to smoke and to share with other people.
As cigar bakers, we're not a hype brand. We're not, we're cigar makers. That's what we do. That's kind of the one good thing we can do. Everything else, the whole business side, we're figuring out as we go, but we can make a cool cigar and we're excited. So
with the actual leaves, it's the oils, it's the flavor of the leaf. It's also, I'm guessing, how it was stored and cured.
Yes. Yeah. And honestly, I wish I didn't take my inners. The oils say a lot about it. Our inner leaf is from Indonesia. And if you try to pull it, anyone who has a blunt wrap, who has our blunts, you can stretch our leaves. It has some give and some elasticity where the inner leaves don't have as much elasticity. And that's just from the oils. It could be the region, the genetics. I like to look at things based off of weight and ratios. Obviously there's going to be tons of different flavor varieties, but at the end of the day, like a thicker leaf is going to smoke heavier than a thinner leaf,
It's the reason we're seeing in the rolling paper industry, ethereals and elements, phantoms now. And they're trying to also figure out, okay, if we go traditional for, let's say, cigarette smoke, it seems to be too thick, but now are we going too thin? Because now everyone has a preference in between that. Some people want, a notebook piece of paper as a, what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm sure it's the same thing, because we used to always joke like, man, let's buy a Cuban cigar, bust it open, stuff it with weed. That would be the ultimate. And then we realized quickly, like, man, it's pretty harsh of a blunt. And like with cigars, you're meant to not inhale them, versus cannabis, you're meant to actually inhale every hit. like the old guys, they'd hold that shit in. Yeah, you realize I saw your video. You did a video on this, didn't you? Where you took an old world cigar?
That was old world tobacco. Yeah, the Cuban tobacco. And honestly, I will have to say that Cuban bale, if we touched it, we would get in a lot of trouble. So I did have to fake that video.
Okay.
But we do have the only Cuban bale. You know, if anyone comes to Ybor, Tampa, go to our factory in Ybor, JC Newman, they, you know, give tours. And in the basement, we have a bale of Cuban tobacco. And so it's a true story. But, you know, I did roll a $120 cigar, though.
That's what I saw. Yeah.
I don't even remember what it was, honestly.
But it's funny to say that I'd rather smoke a Brothers Broadleaf. That it's not just, okay, there's a high ticket on it and it has to be better. It's that this is specifically designed for cannabis to go in.
It's the same idea, same concept, same tobacco in some ways. It's just the design behind it. It's because traditionally a premium cigar is a wrapper, the outer leaf, the binder, the middle leaf, and the filler, which is like the guts. We have the same thing. We're a cigar company, wrapper, binder, filler.
Not split and swishers where it's just binder filler.
So you could argue it's mess free when you take your wrapper off. There's no guts getting everywhere, which there's a story, you know, that was my mom's idea actually. Because we would leave a mess in her house smoking, you know, gutting swishers and stuff.
Aisles.
On every flat surface.
So she was like, you guys need to put a second leaf just for cleanliness. And then it kind of was like, oh, you know, actually like it adds some value too, because that's a pretty decent leaf, you know. I mean, it was never intended to be smoked, but if you're a crafty smoker, which a lot of us, you know, are,
I made a video last week where I had a 5-pack and I saw how many blunts I can get out of one 5-pack. I got 10 blunts out of one 5-pack, and just the value on it's, you know, in my eyes, it's remarkable, you know.
It is.
For $1 or $2 more, you know, maybe a couple more dollars than, you know, what the mass market guys will do. I think the value is there, you know, and hopefully every day we're getting a little better. And
then we flip the quality. And this is where I love small batch and I love you guys' passion, because we rarely have this passion behind a blunt smoking product, in my opinion. And that it's like, yo, this is the barrel age series. Dude, please explain that.
So the whole premise of it actually goes back to a story trying different tobaccos. We had this cool experience to try a hybrid tobacco where, you know, and this is Connecticut broadleaf. This is Ecuadorian Havana. It's just straight, you know, the tobacco. People are starting to breed different things and see what grows well in different regions. If you grow Connecticut broadleaf seed in Pennsylvania, it's completely different. The veins are too close together for our needs. It's a thicker leaf. So we got this tobacco called H2. And when we got it, literally we're like, holy shit, this is dark as midnight.
It's as dark as your jacket.
Yeah. Black. Just absolutely black.
So you don't know how it's going to smoke. Maybe it's going to be more harsh. Maybe it's going to be oily. Maybe it's going to add a lot of extra flavor you don't want, or become something pleasant. Yeah.
Well, we didn't know what to do with this because we had, you know, a decent amount of the cigars. So we were like, they're going to dry out. We have an old wet barrel. Let's toss them in the barrel.
See what happens.
We made these little, you know, jank bins, put them in the barrel, and, you know, opened them up like 3 weeks later and they were dripping wet. We're like, holy crap. Like, this is insane. And we smoked it, and it's the craziest complex experience when it comes to smoking blunts. So then we slowly started making packaging, and it took some time. We left them in the barrel, and
when you say barrel, what barrel?
These are
bourbon barrels.
Yeah. Bourbon barrels.
It's actually a real labor of love, and we've got a great smoke shop in Tampa that does a lot of bourbon business. You know, you can do a barrel pick. So, you know, you like a barrel, you buy it, they'll give you the bottles and send you the empty barrel. So I'll get a call like, hey, got a barrel. I'm like, all right, I'll come buy it. And
it's the same retail shop we worked at.
Yeah. Freshly emptied. So, you know, it was emptied a week ago. So it's charred oak walls, and that bourbon is still in that wood. So we get the cigars right in there, just put them in there, you know, delicately. And then just over time, the cigars just suck it out. And it blew our minds. We did not expect that to happen, but it, you know, kind of, we stumbled upon that and like, whoa, this is different.
Yeah. I mean, there's enough bourbon in some of them that I've heard collectors will buy them and then still have a little bit of whiskey or bourbon out of them. Like, they'll be able to still get enough to try the actual batch, you know? And that's an unbelievable thought, though, of like, let's just try this and see what happens.
That's the fun of small business, you know? Like, we can literally do whatever we want. we can make whatever we want. We can create whatever we want. We can test whatever we want. And, you know, our cigar guy, our tobacco guy thinks we're crazy for doing all this stuff. But
that was my next question. What are the people around you who are traditional tobacconists, think about this? Like when you explain to them, because I'm sure you move around like two great, your brothers too, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's like, you guys are a duo, man. It's like Superman and Batman. Like I already know when you walk into a room, plus your backing of your family name, what do they think when you come in and you say, no, it's actually for weed?
Everyone knows. Everyone knows. Like before we had to tell anyone, they already knew. We were just, when we were in Nicaragua, there was a salesman meeting where all those salesmen were down there, and you know, they have been there for, the longest guy was 27 years, you know. So I'm 27 years old. He's known me since I was a baby. All these people know us, and they support, you know. There's not a lot of hate at all. You know, it's all love and it's all support, and you know, us doing our own thing. Obviously at some point we're going to go into the family business, but we took a leap to do our own thing, and they support it, and you know, we're having fun with it, and they know we're having fun with it, you know.
First Smoke family, are you a commercial cultivator or retailer and you want to get heavily discounted hydroponic equipment? Grow Generation Pro Portal just launched. The Pro Portal gives you exclusive, heavily discounted access to top tier hydroponic products direct. It's a one-stop shop for all your hydroponic needs, spanning every category you rely on. Plus, they ensure fast, reliable delivery anywhere in the United States. Need a customized quote? Want to track your spending? The Pro Portal lets you do both, and so much more, including providing easy access to your partners with its cutting-edge features. It's designed to meet the needs of today's fast-paced industry. Ready to take the business to the next level? Go to growgeneration.com and sign up with the Pro Portal today and get hooked up. No matter the style smoker you are, Hemper has you covered. From unique glass and smoking accessories designed right here in the US, I absolutely love this discreet battery. Super cool. They have a subscription model and a huge website with unique products, smoking accessories designed for the everyday smoker just like you. So all you have to do is go to hemper.co, use the code FSOTD, and get hooked up with a new rig, a subscription box, smoking accessories. Hemper has you covered. Hemper.co. Let's get back into it. Yeah,
so it's all love.
I want to hear that journey. So you're talking about, you know, blunt guts on tables. Florida is super conservative. What's it like when your parents start to catch you smoking weed, and how does this journey go about into this? Because you're a rarity, man. I'm always telling you, like, I'm in your corner, honestly, because I'd love to see disruptors, creatives that get into businesses that can help disrupt the business. I think there's so much money to be made, but almost so much freedom. Like, you represent such a different lane in tobacco than so many other people. And people be like, oh, you know, this company and that company. Dude, we started getting blunt wraps that I've started finding out were just scraps, wetted and pressed into, like, the quality of the shit that we're smoking as a blunt smoker, you just realize quickly, is literally like hot dogs.
Yeah, it's distillate.
Horrendous. Water, yeah. We'll get into that, but how does your journey start where you start to get caught with weed and then it turns into like, hey, we're going to take this family history and stuff weed inside of it?
It started, you know, probably too young than it should have for me. Dawson was a good boy growing up, and you know, at some point, and even before then, Dawson and I weren't close. We were, but he terrorized me. I was my
older brother. You know, you got to keep him straight.
Yeah, you know, he would hide behind corners and jump out and scare me, and you know, he was pin me down and like drip drool and try to suck it back up, and he never did, so it'd land on me.
Full terrorization.
Yeah, it was not fun.
But normal big brother stuff.
You know, just getting into cannabis when I was younger for whatever reason. We definitely butted heads a lot. It probably took 2 years before I got caught. And then it was like, don't tell my dad, you know? So it was like my mom and I's little secret. And shout out Dawson. I don't know if he was smoking at the time. We didn't have that close of a relationship, but I was smoking out of one of my pipes in my room, and I would have a jet lighter right out front. Like we were upstairs, and there was this table, and I'd put in this pocket of this table, and I was going out there. And Dawson like caught me, and I just froze, and he heard our cat downstairs meowing. So he wanted to go see what's going on. I was putting the lighter back, and we just had this look where I thought I was getting in trouble. I thought he was going to tell mom, you know, like, So it wasn't chill for a while. At some point, when we got older, my mom realized that I just wasn't going to stop. And, she would catch me studying outside smoking while studying my French flashcards and in high school. And then she'd quiz me on them and I'd get them all right. And she's like, okay, maybe it's not making them stupid. And I always told her, listen, when you see it impacting my life for the negative, tell me, I'll stop smoking. Never happened. So, and then at one point we had a family friend, who kind of popped the cherry between Dawson and I of like, let's talk about weed. We ended up getting a blunt. We had a blunt each, and Dawson and I smoked that night outside in our backyard. And
I was a senior in high school, and Paxton's 4 years in. That was the first time I ever was like, it was like a grape swisher or something they rolled for me, and yeah, I made a 180 on that day because I was. We, like you said, Florida's conservative. I mean, the propaganda from way back in the day, it worked. And for older generations, they believe it, the whole, so I was very much in that mentality. And then, but once you try it, it's like, oh, like, this is not what they say it is. It's not as bad, and it's funny. I worked for 3 years with Anheuser-Busch before starting this. And, I no shade to alcohol. There's a time and place for everything, but, I've seen some pretty, what I consider sad things, alcohol does a lot more damage than, but everything in moderation, but
balance. We see the same thing. And we also see a lot of people who use cannabis heavily in replacement of them doing something worse. Like they used to be into this, or I have an addicted personality, and instead of it being something else, it's this. And I applaud that.
I'm all for that. If it gets you off of bad things, all for it.
Is a replacement for another habit you're going to fill because yourself.
And a habit that will kill you. A habit that will kill you, So, smoke a little weed and smile, and I think that's the cure.
I do. And so, but your family already is involved heavily, obviously, multiple generations in the tobacco business. And then, so you're smoking weed, and then these two worlds come together in a grape swisher.
Well, it's, there's a natural progression. I don't think maybe there's a few people that start with like, a blunt, but I smoked out of like a soda can for like the third, fourth, fifth time, and then maybe you get a pack of papers, and someone brings a pack of blunts.
Someone has to know how to roll it.
Yeah, dude, it's a whole process.
You got to be around some other bad influences.
Yeah, you need to put on game. Yeah. And then, at a certain point, you find whatever lane. I know you're a joint smoker. A lot of, people here are joint smokers. But if you're on the blunts, there's a level where you start to go towards, you said the pressed scrap. It's called homogenized tobacco leaf. They pulverize tobacco, put some cellulose, spread it out like paper, and it's paper. I was going to bring you a roll, honestly, just to show you.
We used to buy boxes right across the street from UCF. There's a Chevron. We used to literally go to the Chevron. They were open 24/7 too. So you could go at 3 a.m. after the club if you're like out of blunt wraps. And we would go across, and we would always like make a deal with someone like, yo, if you buy the blunt wraps, because it was like $30 to $50, I think, for a box at the time. I'll roll 2 for you, or I'll give you an 1/8. We would do these trades so that someone would have to go buy them and shit. But it's crazy the amount of hot dog scraps I've smoked, and thinking, like, looking at the leaf because it's so perfect that this must be high quality. Just not knowing enough.
Because there's no veins, there's nothing, but it's homogenized.
It's all one color.
It's homogenized tobacco leaf. It's just blended up. But at a certain point, I think everyone will want to try a natural leaf. There's tons of brands that do it. And, shout out Monopoly Melts. He was the first person who put me on the natural leaf game, and I smoked. I'm like, holy shit, this is different than homogenized tobacco leaf. And then, but you can only smoke on those until they're made by machine. There's, Dawson's talking about we're sorting for vein direction and we're producing for vein direction down the middle. Those aren't. So you open up a 5-pack, you're struggling with veins and stuff. There's holes in the leaves. They're flavored, like we're from Florida, and I know you're from Florida, but we're still in Florida. So like, we just got into smoking good flower 4 or 5 years ago. And, I don't want to, it's disrespectful for you who actually spends time caring about your craft, pheno hunting, caring about the soil, everything. Yeah, let's throw it in a strawberry, flavored leaf. And it's like, go fuck yourself,
It's crazy because that's what we literally used to do though. And then I got around some guys who were very purists and they'd be like, hey, let's buy a brand new bubbler because we don't even want it to ever be smoked out of. And we'll break in the new batches like that. And then you're like, okay, it needs to be a double bubbler. Okay, it needs to be a joint, because then you start to say the purity and you pulling through flour that's been unburned. That was a big thing, you know, and you just start to go down this. But the whole time, celebrations, we're rolling blunts. We're in Florida. This is the South. People don't think it's the South. This is the South.
It's the South.
And so, plus also being in Tampa and Sarasota and stuff, there is a big tobacco world. And so it was always that. It was always like, yo, put us on some new shit, which I think is the Barrel series. And now the Pearls, right? And I used to always trip when I would see someone open up, I won't name brands, but open up another pack of, and they would get one blunt. And I would be like, what is this? This is fucking insane. Like, what is this guy worried about?
Can you hold that packaging up to the camera?
Yeah.
Our little motto, I have it on my shirt. I don't know if you can see this. It's 5 out of 5. That's what I know. And you know what? If there's 4 out of 5, shoot us a DM. We respond to every Instagram DM. We care, you know.
Shit happens, you know.
Yeah,
but we understand tobacco is a natural product. It's not easy, but
I've literally seen people though bust open 3-4 packs to get 2 blunts out of other people's stuff. And I never understood, like, what are they seeing that they don't like in this? And it's not just stale. It's the things you're saying, vein direction. Because they know, man, if I roll this $60, $80 eighth or some high end product in this beater ass leaf, it's not going to be what I want it to be.
And just do a cost analysis. If a 5-pack's $7 and you get 1 leaf out of it, that leaf costs $7, you know?
That's
it's expensive, bro. It's expensive.
It's crazy.
And that's, you know, I was in South Carolina when I made, when we first filed the LLC for Brothers Broadleaf. I did it at the College Charleston Library. And, dude, I mean, I was buying a box of another brand every 2-3 days. I wasn't smoking that heavy, but it's just running through packs. And we're like, and I'd call my dad and shout out my fiance in the corner. I remember specifically we were at the beach and I rolled up a blunt and it just canoed and I'm dealing with the vein. And I called my dad pissed off and I'm like, I'm smoking a blunt right now. I'm supposed to be getting like calm and relaxed, but I'm like, I'm getting fired up. And I'm like, and that fire never really stopped. So we're still here today, you know.
You're like, Dad, I got this idea. Like, and so that's what I want to get into. When does it go from I love smoking weed, I enjoy this thing, cannabis, it's not what we thought it was, to now connecting the family business and figuring this thing out?
So when we went to school, we were told, listen, go, you know, we're going to join our family business. Kind of exiled Dawson because he graduated first. He's 3 years older. So he worked for Anheuser-Busch, you know, selling beer and stuff. And at that time I was still, you know, in school. So I never really had a time to get out of it. But at a certain point, just being frustrated with all of these leaves, it was like, hey, listen, Dawson's in school. I texted our cigar guy, our tobacco guy, and I said, hey, I want to, you know, we need to do something. There's a story on our YouTube with like the actual text message. I saved that phone for that reason because it's the first mention of it. It was April 21st, 2019 of like truly doing this right here. And, you know, I met with him when I went back to Tampa, and then it was just a slow development of, you know, okay, what do we need? We need tobacco. Where is it going to be rolled? We have a factory. What are we going to call it? All the renditions of the different packagings and stuff. And, you know, how are we going to sell it? You know, trying to get into the smoke shops and stuff and just all the tiny little ideations and stuff. But at a certain point, once we knew that we were going to do it, you know, our first batches were 500 cigars. You know, it's not a big risk. You know, we didn't have packaging at the time. So it's not like we're, you know, investing a lot of money into it. So it was, you know, support from my dad almost immediately. And, you know, to the point where, shout out Tyler Storms, who designed our packaging. You know, he works for the family. We didn't have to hire our designer. Like they let us use their resources and he did a superb job where we're probably never going to change it, you know? So that, you know, just a symbolic, they support what we did from day one, you know?
We definitely had their support, which we obviously could not be here without the family and the family history. But at the same time, it's not like the family's always been a privately owned company. It's always been owned by a Newman. And we were taking that same approach. But, when we started up, we had no capital. I mean, my brother and I had some money saved up, and we put, whatever little money we had to buy our first, packaging. And then we were bootstrapping it still to this day. It's just, okay, we have our drops and we'll sell a drop and save some money and go invest a little bit more. But, we're not taking, we're not selling any equity of this company. And that's kind of the only way we can guarantee that this company will stay around for 130 years, like our other, like their other family business. And, we don't want to be held to someone else's standards. We want to take our time and not be forced to sell products that we don't want to sell or we don't want to smoke, but yeah, we're not financially strapped like some of these big boys out there, and we're bootstrapping it, I mean, there's no investments. It's just, whatever we can sell goes right back into the products and the tobacco and grow 1% a year, a day rather. But
we're here at Grow Generation, and we treat you like family because you're first smoke family. So we got the brand new drip powder line, and it doesn't matter if you're in store or online, you're family. So drip intros the code, growgeneration.com, or stores nationwide. Keep your terps up, keep your lines clean. The powder line is killing it. We got to get back into the grow, but we'll see you there.
First Smoke family, no matter the guest, we're rocking raw and Elements papers. Whether it's the Elements king size wide, the raw fatties without the crease, so you still get the king size wide, but with unbleached and uncreased. Something we've been loving on the show is the raw king size blacks. And when we're lighting up, the Phoenix. This is awesome. Flintless residue, windscreen with a poker. No matter what products you like from Raw, you can check out genuineraw.com, and that gets you to all their affiliate links to purchase these products direct from them to make sure they're raw authentic. Genuineraw.com, First Smoke of the Day sent you. You parallel control with not giving away equity, and that also having something to do with longevity. Very interesting that you correlate all those together, because when you were talking about QCing the product, all I could think about is how many people are going to be like, why don't you just hire a bunch of people? Why don't you sell a percentage of the business off and raise a couple $1 million and then, build this huge brand, and why not do this? And you kind of answered that eloquently by saying like, yeah, if we give away a percentage or sell something off, we give away partial control. And then that in turn is now we're selling products maybe we don't want to sell, or the quality control goes down because we need a higher percentage of, stuff that makes it through and is profitable. Like all these weird concerns come in where right now quality is number one. That starts to fall with what's most important in the business.
Yeah. And I think if you come into any industry expecting just to make money, I think that's a dangerous, you should do it because you're good at it, you enjoy it. But there's more to it than just profit. There's the people, there's the planet aspect, there's a lot of different moving pieces, and the passion part too. I mean, we're not here to make a quick buck and get out and go sit on a beach. This is, my brother and I think both have it in our mind that we're never going to retire. I mean, both of these guys here sitting, if you can't see, my grandfather, he passed away at 90 years old working at the cigar factory. He was pissed off about a customer who didn't pay a bill.
Cameroon tobacco.
Yeah. And, his heart went out, and he was 90 years old and died in the factory. But that's what we do. So the joke in our family is that we just kind of work till we drop. So we're in this for the long run.
And one thing to note too, we can learn from past experiences. In the 80s, we had a family buyout. My great grandfather had a bunch of kids who had a bunch of kids who had a bunch of kids. And now that's my father's generation. So at that point, that's the 80s, and the cigar industry wasn't doing great. There's a lot of people in the pot. And that's, one thing that I can give my grandfather the testament. How old was he when he did that? 82? He pulled out a loan and paid off the family. Just, hey, we want control. So there's a line in his book where at one point they got there early. They're walking through the factory where it's him and my father and my uncle, and it's just them. They're like, guys, it's ours now. Like, we can do whatever we want, and it took a long time for them to dig out of that hole, and they did, but now they have control. So why would we sell any equity so that we have people telling us what to do? Or
the generations before you got out of that. So why put yourself back in that position? That's a great way to look at it. And there was a reason they made that play. So they weren't getting pulled in 100 directions, you know, with people that aren't that involved or don't even want to be that involved, because you guys are so hands-on.
Quite literally. Yeah.
Yes,
Quite literally. From
yeah.
every angle.
Yeah.
Do you think that that is correlated to your success?
Well, I appreciate you calling it a success.
No,
it doesn't feel that way.
Bro, we're in California, so we're as far away from Florida as you can be. And if you smoke tobacco with cannabis, you know about Brothers Broadleaf, in my opinion. And if you don't, it's getting brought up in combos. Like when we talk to, we rollers, enthusiasts, you go to New York, everyone loves blunts in New York. We get so many. The convo was always, well, you're buying this high-end weed. You're sourcing these small batches. Obviously, we're around connoisseurs of cannabis. Why would they not be connoisseurs of also tobacco? Especially if that's the way you consume cannabis. That's even crazier, bro. To consume super high-end cannabis and then throw some, hot dog water. No, for real though, and think that that's like your best smoking experience.
Yeah. No, seriously. I mean, no one would take like a really expensive Macallan and just make a rum and coke with it,
or put it in a solo cup to drink out of it.
Those guys are like particular about the ice. And is it like reverse osmosis ice or
can't be clear, no cloudy ice? Yeah.
They're in. Yeah. If you're really a connoisseur, it boils down to even, I'm sure, the glass that you're drinking it out of. Is it crystal or there's so many layers to this. And that's where I see your product fitting in, is that like, if you're a connoisseur of tobacco with cannabis, Brothers Broadleaf. It's like, that's the number one answer.
Connoisseur is the right word. And we accepted that, like you said, there's levels. Our blunts might not be the first blunt that people smoke. That's fine. That's great. But we want to be the last blunt that they smoke, It's like, once you see the steps of how you can smoke blunts and cannabis and pair things, like, we want to be the last stop.
Dude, I used to smoke. The first papers we were smoking were so thick you couldn't even see the weed inside the paper. It was pure and
like
even
jobs.
Worse. Yeah. Or you would, because the thought process was this: oh, we should buy like a super high end French paper off of eBay. That's like some exclusive small batch. And then you come to realize like a lot of the papers were built for tobacco to put inside of them. So that's where I really love what Josh does, right? We talk about innovators, is that he knows his audience. So everything's designed towards that audience, is what we're talking about with this.
For Josh, he's one of the coolest inspirations. He can make whatever fun products he wants, like he's awesome. We have a different, obviously he's, fully smoke shop and we're direct to consumer, forced to our nature of our business being so small in production, but no, he's awesome, and I love the positivity, and no, he's goals.
Another disruptor.
Yeah,
very much so.
The reason that and that's why I parallel a lot of his the lawsuits and all the stuff you see him post about. Nothing that's not already posted about, but it's like, yeah, man, he disrupts the market, so he gets a lot of the sharks are like, the fuck, this guy again?
But he's also hands-on with the product extremely and loves
more than anyone
it.
I've ever seen.
It's insane,
I think of any other paper company that has someone at the helm that's even showing the amount of work that guy, like, that's what's mind-blowing, is like, yeah, you're going to obviously then create people that don't like you and like you. Welcome to life. You're lucky if 50% of people like you. No, for real. But that's putting yourself out there. And it's like, I just go to like, name another person. I mean, he's the top weed growers, the top entrepreneurs. That's him. That's you guys. That's them putting in, as many hours as they can, scaling a legacy business that they're like, hey, I'm changing the way we're doing this of the industry. So I see you guys. Cause I mean, we won't go into all the bullshit tobacco companies that we've smoked over the years, but like, it's a rarity. There's 3 or 4 names that come up in any conversation, and I don't want to get sued or anything, but like, there's 3 or 4 names that always come up, and it's always like, this is what you smoke if you want tobacco with cannabis.
We're in our office in Tampa working 6 days a week nonstop, and we don't get to come out to California and like have time to go meet with other smokers. But it's really cool seeing other brands doing something similar to us with the vein down the middle. And, like, oh, cool.
At the end of the day, I think it's great. If more people smoking, it's good. Yeah. It's a good sign for the country. Like, it obviously needs to be decriminalized. So, the more people smoking weed, I think the country will get better. And, and then it all kind of just funnels like back to that progression. As more people smoking blunts, you realize what's out there. And, I think a rising tide can raise all ships. Is that what they say? Yeah.
Rising tide raises all ships.
So, the more people smoking blunts, it's great. So we're all, it's a small community. We're here to support it. And, just like we started the podcast talking about all the threats, in both industries. And, the government wants to have their hands in everything, including tobacco. And, we can get into it if it's even interesting. But,
I did want to ask about that. How different is licensing to sell tobacco than other products?
They want to regulate it. And I spent 2 summers in high school and in college, literally working in DC. I worked with our local congresswoman and, kind of learned what it's like to be in DC. I've walked the halls of Congress with my father to lobby, Congress people about, hey, why regulating tobacco, especially premium tobacco? Yeah, cigarettes are a different story. There's chemicals and stuff, but this is just tobacco. The only variety you get is the seed you use and where it's grown. It's not intended to be sold to children. That's not what we do. It's, these are $15, $20 cigars. So we have to educate, both blunt smokers and Congress people that, hey, this is a traditional handcrafted, it's an art. And, so there's a lot of politics, then there's always threats. And, so our family's big on protecting our branded legacy and keeping this industry alive. So, you've got to be politically active and fight for yourself because no one else will,
But operationally, I want to tell you a fun story.
Yeah,
please. By the way, that's the rosé. And I do want to talk about some flower stuff after. And
yeah. I have a couple questions about tobacco industry stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But go ahead.
Well, so silly regulations. There was this law. I don't know the exact date, but I think it was August of 2007, 2009, where it's called a predicate date. And after this date, no new cigars can be made. So at one point at our factory, there was an office. It was like mission control room where there's just designers making products and just you have to make a few boxes, sell them to retailers so they're on the shelf. So if you want to make a new product in 15 years, you have a portfolio of cigars the brands that you already technically sold. So technically, and that's abolished now, but technically these cigars are a quorum little Q. It was a 5-pack, 35 ring gauge cigar that our family used to make. And it's just like, we couldn't make, we wanted a ring gauge, it's, you take the number and then divide it by 56 of an inch. And that's how big it is. So ours are 32 ring gauge, but there should be 35. We wanted it to be smaller, but we couldn't make a smaller than 35 ish ring gauge because we had to have a predicate cigar. It had to be a 5-pack. It had to, it had all these things and it's just, that's a silly rule. Like, it doesn't really make sense, and so that's just a operational example of like just weird things that you have to go through.
How regulation can form a product like this, I mean, it's the size and shape it is because of the way the laws were written at the time we started, which thankfully, like, again, it's a battle that's going on in court ongoing. And, so far it's, the work is hopefully paying off and, we can keep just doing what we love and always have done for 130 years. And,
that's wild though. Cause most people, you get into the business, you think just make whatever style you want.
Yeah. You think it's that simple.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you realize quickly, like, no,
once you're in the weeds, it's like, oh damn. It's like,
I will say on the setting things up, like set up an LLC through Sunbiz on Florida. 2 weeks later, in February 1st of 2020, we got accepted. I did it in January of 2020. You get your EIN and then boom, you can start slapping licenses. I'm pretty sure the wholesale license was free and the retail license was like $50 for Florida. You have to renew it every year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was, but by the way, none of my dad joined the business. It was already operating. So like, there's no, how do you make a cigar company? So it's just, I think this is what we need and then do it. And
then to have a smokables product where it's actual tobacco, is there some licensing involved and stuff like that you had to jump through some hoops?
Licensing, I mean, obviously we want to trademark our product, but
so normal business stuff.
Yeah, just protect the brand, get the registered trademark.
And so would the goal to be carry this in any smoke shop? No. And that's what I want to talk about, because you do a direct to consumer model. And like with the barrel series and some of your small batch stuff, they go on sale and they sell out. Like people, you have to, this is like a drop of the new Nike SBs, you know, it really is.
It's gotten a lot better. Previously, when it was broadleaf only, things would go in 3 minutes, and then it was not fun. And that's why we had to start making other products that we enjoyed smoking. It's funny, now I smoke primarily Havanas. I smoked the pack of Havanas is crushed.
But that's your go-to, the Havanas, which is you call the pearls.
We have the pearls are sorted by Dawson and I. They're the dark leafs. They're a little bit more expensive than the Dudz. The Dudz are basically the light versions that we don't want to sell as pearls. The broadleaf, the black pack, is a thicker Connecticut broadleaf. It's a thicker, heavier leaf. The Havana is dark but thinner. That's what you smoke.
Interesting.
You know, would you consider the blunt you smoked robust? How was it?
It was very smooth. My biggest thing when I get handed blunts is I don't smoke a lot of tobacco, so I'll immediately start coughing very hard when there's a lot of tobacco. And I find that, I don't want to throw names out here, but when they roll out these certain types, it's a very harsh smoke, no matter what flower. And I know that because I'm putting my flower in it. So I've smoked it 20 different ways, and now I'm putting it.
Where's your ashtray? Did you finish it?
Oh yeah, dude, right here. Oh, I'm down to the roach, bro. I would smoke 100 of these, bro. When it's this quality, it's undeniably a phenomenal experience. I don't care if you're not a traditional tobacco smoker. And the reason I don't smoke blunts, because look at the options that are available to most people out there. That's why they'll go to papers, because it's a little easier to say, okay, I know I can get this experience out of this. You got to hunt these down. You guys are direct to consumer, and then when I run out of these, I got to go back. You can't go back. You're ruined.
That's the struggle that we have right now. For the first time in 3 years, we literally don't have a single thing on the website besides our glue right now.
It's funny because it's great for business growth, but you on the flip side know, then you got consumers hey, bro, I'm I smoke these all day. I don't want to have to go anywhere else.
And I don't want people to be without, it sucks. It sucks to do that to people, and we're going to figure it out. I do a lot of the content, social media stuff Dawson's taken, and it's fun how naturally we found a split where Dawson goes to Nicaragua a lot. He's the production guy, and I'm confident that we're going to figure this out within the next 2-3 months.
How to be able to scale it up and provide the same amount of quality, but larger drops.
Yeah. And we can go into that if you want, because it's
I want you to teach me how to roll a blunt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to roll one myself, but I want you to teach me.
Let me roll one with you. Okay.
You got your grinder?
Yeah. And I tried to not clink.
Here. Yeah. Pick some flour of yours, and then I got some flour.
I'm going to do the Life Sauce.
Shout out Life Sauce.
Do you know LaFave?
Pack Odds was really close with that, with the homie LA Fave.
Smell that rosé real quick.
And then I know Life Sauce pretty well. It's funny because a lot of people we've had on the pod, I've known since I came to Cali, 6, 7, 8 years. So I had met him recently, let's say in the last year or two.
Life Sauce?
Yeah. And he does great work, man.
And we were smoking blunts with him last night at Archie's. He's Adam Hill.
How crazy is that?
Isn't that wild?
If you handed this to me in New York, I'd be like, did you spray that? I'd be like, do you fucked with this? This smells great, dude. Shout out. If I was on the East Coast right now and you handed this to me,
the scary thing is,
you messed with it. No, this smells exceptional, bro. This is great. And I know he doesn't do that. So that's what's fucking fire.
Yeah. No, wow. He said it was he's great, man.
Valley Haze, man. Look at you with the roller who rolls my hash holes also rolls LA Fave's hash holes.
No way. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait, we saw them last night, right? Yeah.
Blonde hair dude?
No, not the roller, but the hash holes. We were talking about this last night, and I think it's really cool. And by the way, just for editing notes, I don't know if we're allowed to say that he owns dude.
Dude.
I don't know. But
welcome to the game. It is what it is. Okay. We're promoting all the stuff you do, big dog.
Oh, shit. we might blur that out. But he was doing something in the cigar world, besides our blunts, the premium cigar world, you don't roll one tobacco. No cigar is just all broadleaf. The filler has a bunch of different stuff, and the binder has a bunch of different things. different ratios. And he was rolling like 30% rosé, a little bit of the Cabasso. And I'm like, that's starting to get funky. Just like, you know, the Proper Doink dudes I know you're friends with.
Adam and Paul.
They're talking about slapping rosin in and different flowers and changing the experience. You know, we were talking about that before. And
My
I think
favorite thing.
you can only smoke so much lemon cherry gelato or, you know, biscotti before it's like, what can we do to make it different, you know?
And that's what's cool about the smoking experience is like, oh, I'm not a big Skittles guy because it doesn't get you high enough, but I love the flavor. Okay. So roll 70% Skittles and 30% OG.
Yeah.
Roll 70% Skittles, you know, 30% Chem Dog. Like you can start to play with these flavors. Like that's what's so dope about what we do in this cannabis space is that like you get to curate your own experience. You get to mix the flavors. Like one of my favorite things was getting multiple bags and then being like, damn, I bet nug of this and 4 nugs of that and try it that way and then try it this way. And next thing you know, you're like, dude, one of my favorite things is I always used to joke with people is we have Zerbo and Prism, right? And this is like a gassy purple, right? And then this is a Skittles with some OG backing, but this is mainly Z. I like to do 50-50. Because now I get this gassy purple with the Skittles in there and it gets so complex and gassy and Z and perp. And this has the potency where this has so much flavor.
So
and then I start to play with like just 1 nug of this and mostly this or 50-50 or, and yeah, I love that. I love that about there.
Dude, you just sparked an old memory in my head. My buddy Graham back in high school, we would mix 3 weeds and there's a 3-6 Mafia song called Bin Laden weed.
Yeah. Smoking on that Bin Laden.
You mix 3 nugs.
Dude, that's like, if you're a stoner, you got the same playlist. I hate to tell you, you got the 3-6 Mafia. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought that was really, really cool that they were starting to blend things, you know, because in the cigar world, that's where the flavors come from. So I'm like,
it does.
Fuck with that. All right. So I rolled blunts a little funky.
There's no right or wrong way.
No.
And that's part of the fun is
some people are used to having, let's say, one of these where they'll split it down the middle.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what we used to do with some of them. You split them down the middle, empty it out, re-roll it. Others, you unwrap it and then they would wrap it around a Coke can or a bottle. Right. Yeah. And then you just have so many different ways people like to do their style blunt. And so that's why I wanted to roll a blunt with.
Let's do it.
Paxton.
And I will say for everyone in California, it's just dry as shit. Like prep your flower beforehand and then pull the leaf out. Just because if it takes a while, you know, the leaf could get dry.
I see what you're saying though about having the vein go right down the middle.
Yeah, that way there's nothing impeding the seal line. So the reason I say I roll funny is my hands are small, so I always cut the leaves. I can't. My thumbs don't make it all the way there without bending. So I cut the leaf short and stout. But if you look at the leaf, I don't know if there's a camera.
You're
but
like an Olympic swimmer who, just needs, I need that little extra inch. Like, seriously, man.
I can't reach.
I was built for the tobacco, but I just need longer fingers.
Yeah,
That's pretty dope. Man, that is so specific though about having the vein go down the middle. For everyone listening, like the care that people put into cultivation of cannabis, the most high-end cannabis, is the same level of care they're putting into these the tobacco leaf.
And shout out Dawson. He's the one who's making a lot of the trips to Nicaragua, you know, working with everyone at the factory, making sure our tobacco's there. Dawson's, you know, doing all of the ordering, making sure everything's getting imported properly and getting all the cigars we need. And
we complement each other. I can handle the tobacco stuff. Paxton's better at the cannabis stuff. So, you know, it works out. But
yeah.
Is there a reason that I'm putting the weed on the inside and I don't flip it upside down? Or would it matter?
Not necessarily.
I'm just wondering.
Like for right now, if you look, you know, there's the point is in the bottom right.
Oh, so you want, okay.
It's however you prefer, you know, like my fiance rolls left to right. So the flip is always on the opposite. It's, you know, it's 100% up to preference. And, you know, if you want to roll a tip or no?
Yeah.
You rolling a tip?
Do you recommend a tip?
It depends. You know?
What do you like?
I like a tip.
You do like a tip.
I like the little 22 gauge tip. Dude, I smoke. No one make fun of me. I smoke like 0.8 gram blunts all day long.
Yeah,
really,
I know.
I take a nug, grind it, roll a blunt, and just puff it for 4 minutes, and I'll smoke 10 of those a day. You know,
it's funny because I have more weed than I have blunts, so I would stuff them because I have more weed. But it's funny, you got a plethora of tobacco, so you're like,
and
yeah, dude,
we buy our own weed, and we're small business owners. Okay, so we're not balling. I'm not rolling eighths. All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just like a joint, but you have more room to work with. It's like putting two 1.5s together. Like the Biggie Smalls extendos, not long, double fat.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just throw it in. Make sure that all the weed is on the left side. Leave enough room for the tip, and same thing with joints. I don't know what the term that Adam from Proper Doings uses, but like when there's weed pressed up against the, when there's like weed pressed up against the tip and you can see it.
It's funny. They coined all these terms.
I love it, man. I want to know what mouth coat means. I must be smoking mids, man.
Mouth coat. They need to have a little dictionary. It's like man, that's actually a great idea.
True Chief, what's the Joe Gatto Impractical Jokers? They have like little fun facts popping up. They can have like all the terms mean.
They have this like cool little notebook that they just came out with, and I wish I could remember the guy's name, but it's this like chart of flavors, and it's almost like if you had a notebook put in front of you and you said, now judge these, and you would be able to mark things off and then go back and look at your judging. But it was so in depth,
really,
and it organized your thoughts of like sweet. Oh, is it sweet? Okay, here's the aroma chart. Where on this is it? And it is this full breakdown that. It would be funny to have now the Proper Doings version where they're talking about like mouth coat and this and that. Yeah, because they've coined a bunch of terms where I'm like, that's a great way to say it.
I mean, I definitely know, like, I remember taking my first dab of Kanji hash rosin, and I'm like, 2 minutes later, I'm like, holy shit, I still taste it. Like, that's insane, And that's honestly, we were joking around last night. Like, I remember the first time that I smoked weed that tasted, it was actually Jungle Boys. I think Citrique, I can't remember. This was like 2016. Monopoly Melts got it from Chalice, and, we were smoking on it. I was like, holy shit, I'm smoking mids in Tampa. I was young, like this was different. And then, Dawson.
So what are you doing with the glue though?
Shit, I went way past it.
No, so you're rolling?
I roll it all the way up until where I would lick it.
Okay.
If you're using a tip, I would definitely like start tucking from the tip. And then I push the tip inwards a little bit just to get it nice and tight. And then I just slowly start working it all the way up. I'm not a great teacher. I'm sorry.
I like to like form like the mold of the
I see that. I needed a bigger tip. I can see that already, but it's all right.
You need to use less weed, man.
Yeah, I can't, dude.
You're on these trapped ones.
But if I'm smoking my own, do you still recommend using the glue? Or
you don't have to, but here, try this a little bit.
And then do you just hit the edges or all the way across?
Dab a little bit. You're going to smear it with your finger anyway. So like just.
So you put it out and then, okay, cool.
I mean, however you want, man. Like this is.
In the cigar factory, it's a little cup. They just like push the cup down and put it on their finger.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, and we do sell those cups.
Do you sell the glue?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Shout out Allegra. She was the one who made those. Dude, we get this 4-inch poly tubing. It's 1,000 feet of tube, and the little alligator sealer arms from Uline. And my mom goes and presses it, moves an inch, presses it, moves it, and she does that thousands of times. And then we cut the top because it's sealed. And then when we cut the top, we make glue like we use Burmacol, which is just the industry standard for cigar machines and stuff. We boil our water, our RO water, we cook it up, put it in cake piping bags, and we pipe it in one by one. So every Wednesday is glue day. I'm sure I have my
glue day.
Yeah. Do I have it on my phone? No, I don't.
You wake up, you're like, it's Wednesday,
it's glue day.
I start boiling the water and
find a podcast to listen to. And, our team is great. Shout out everyone there. My mom, who does all of our books, Allegra, who does all the customer experience. She took the DMs off of me, and then helps us on the fulfillment side. And then we have Eliana packing our barrels, who, has been with us our entire lives. So it's a great little team. Am I missing anyone, Dawson?
It really is family.
It's really
it's all family. Yeah.
It's amazing, And then we get to bring our dogs there, and it's awesome.
Which anyone's welcome to come to our office in Tampa. And if you do, just be warned, we always have our dogs. They're very friendly, but they like to sniff people, and you can't sneak into our office.
No, they definitely.
And so if you live in the Central Florida, is it the best way to actually I'm saying that you probably don't have a little showroom where you sell Brothers Broadleaf, right?
We do have like a little retail space.
Oh, that's cool as hell.
It's extremely jank. It's probably 1% of our overall business.
Yeah.
If you get me, I'm going to give you a bunch of free shit, like,
you're like, we broke even again.
Yeah, we're not like,
it's
what you
whatever.
walk out empty-handed.
Yeah.
But that is cool though, that because there's so many blunt smokers in Central Florida that if you're in the area, if you're coming through Tampa, like, why wouldn't you stop by, And then if you're a grower, like, dude, go bless these dudes up and say what up, like, are you kidding me?
Oh, well, we'd trade lots of blunts. It's funny back in, this time last year, dude, it was true small business. We had Ishmael on our fulfillment side, Dawson's handling like all the emails and basically anything that needs proper attention business wise, he's doing. And I was just cranking out DMs like a madman, responding to every single person and then making the videos. And then in the afternoon we get together and sort. Now we have someone to help us out on the DM side and now all the customer service side. So like we didn't have, I would love to have everyone come by the office, but like we didn't have time to. So like now she can respond and, absolutely have people come by, and then she can chat with anyone who comes by, and Dawson and I can continue doing our work on whatever we need to. So we encourage it, but we're there 6 days a week, and just, it's a small business. We're running around like,
this would get me smoking blunts. You guys, this is like, because I've smoked some Brothers Broadleafs in the past, like a good amount, but it's always been rolled by somebody else that's either passing it to me or is like, I roll these all the time. So I always go, well, you just roll it up then, right? Because I don't want to fuck it up if it's
that's
like.
A beautiful
that's
blunt,
a great
No, I rolled this and I'm like, dude, I could get into this. Like, this is enjoyable. I like how you tuck yours and shit. You got the little extra.
Honestly, and that's shout out Roll BMC, man. Him and Adam Hill are some of the first people to ever support us, and absolutely love them for that. We're with Adam last night. But yeah, the little tuck tech is fun, but I've been so lazy. Like I said, I roll my 0.8 gram blunt, so I just break it off, and dude, it's gross.
Adam represents you guys so heavy, man.
Dude.
Every time I'm around him, he's smoking Brothers Broadleaf. Doesn't matter where I catch him, like anywhere.
Back during COVID, dude, we probably had 500 followers on Instagram or subscribe, whatever. Followers, right?
Yeah, Instagram.
Yeah. He would do lives with Top Tree, and I had a copy and paste saying, let's talk about blunts. And every time I saw that he was looking at the phone, like where he could see chat, pop it up. And I did that for weeks. And one day he was like, Brothers Broadleaf, like, let's talk. And I remember him putting me on the live, and like, there's a 3-second delay. My heart's pounding and stuff. And basically hit him with an elevator pitch for like 30 seconds. And, he was super kind. And this is someone who I used to watch, he was on the GQ with 2 Chainz, most expensivest, like Adam's a fucking legend if you're, deep in the weed world. And, so what? He's on the Valley Haze. Look, he's on the Valley Haze.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
he's such a good dude, man.
Yeah, he's such a sweetheart.
Oh, that's
man.
hilarious. Yeah. I remember first time in Cali, he's up on stage throwing weed out and saying what up and shit and hosting Secret Sesh. Yeah, he's just an OG and does so much for the game that goes unnoticed by so many that it's just like, oh, there he, and it's like, dude, he's been doing that for 20 years.
Adam Melodocious.
Yeah.
His term turned blunts into roaches.
See what I'm saying though? He's got, bro, shout out to Adam, bro. Big shout out, because now he's uploading songs on Instagram to where you can, it's insane. Like, he's just next level.
Yeah.
And he loves trolling too. So
we're making some with Nate Life Sauce. We're going to his facility Friday. Is that tomorrow? Yeah. And we're making some blunt rosin.
That was my next question. Yeah.
Making some blazen.
Some blazen.
Yeah. I tried doing it in a video with a flat iron. What was it?
Like a hair straightener.
Yeah. Or whatever.
No, it was an iron,
like t-shirt iron.
I thought he was trolling when he first brought this up. Like, no one still
have you tried it before yet?
I have not, but I've seen him smoke it, and I've seen him, just for everyone listening, he rolls a blunt
very loosely,
no and lick. Then we'll press it into rosin with a rosin press.
So it's flower rosin.
Yes.
It's not even like,
but mixed with the tobacco oils.
Yeah. And honestly, I'm sure we can get really deep into like, different moisture levels of how much the tobacco will seep out. You could probably dry it out. But all I know is that at Hashel Island, he took me back and we took some dabs, and all I could taste was like some, like, honestly, like a tangy. I didn't taste any tobacco. It wasn't gross. It was through a Carta. I love Puffco too. But dude, it was fantastic. And I was like,
there's a nicotine hit though. I felt a little nicotine buzz. Like there's some euphoric aspect of that blunt rosin. It hits you different.
It is funny though, to where like the way he does, he's throwing good flour in there. He's using Brothers Broadleaf. It is inquisitive enough to where you're like, you start to think like, huh? At first, because your knee jerk reaction is like, what are you talking about?
Well, bro, like I said, you only smoke so many different flavors until you start mixing strains and shit.
We should try that with some barrel series and see if any of the bourbon, because those have some moisture left in there. So I wonder if you can get some bourbon and some rosin. That might be.
We're doing it tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right.
We're doing it tomorrow.
You have to like push them a little bit. You got to be like, all right, now let's try it without the weed. I want you to dab just straight barrel series. It's like,
so back
to the edge.
Did you ever like vape like with the e-juice?
Oh man, not e-juice. No, I used to vape flour. Like I was big into Volcano.
Okay. No, I'm talking about like
vape. No.
Dude, I discovered you could put you could drip an e-juice onto a hot dab nail and it just dabs. And it was
wild.
Horrible. Absolutely horrible.
But you're like dabbing nicotine, like almost, right?
Yeah. I would not recommend it to anyone. I don't know. Yeah, that's a weird tangent.
Yeah. Adam, look what you get us into this weird tangent.
Thank you for everything,
with
Adam.
The blazen.
Yeah.
No, but he reps Brothers Broadleaf heavy. And I feel like you guys have captured such a market where anyone I run into that's super into blunt smoking, this is the topic of convo is like, well, what type of blunt? Like what brand, you know? And it's almost always you guys in the real smoker circles.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And hopefully
we don't get out enough to ever hear of the feedback like that, you know, but it's I mean, definitely since we started 5 years ago, there was really only one or two options, you know, and I mean, I do think it's a good sign in the industry that there's now competition. It's not owned by just, you know, more or less monopolies with no incentive to improve. So like you said, you know, someone's got to, we just take a different approach. And like, if someone calls and has an issue, which can happen, you know, be like, hey, you know, it happens. Well, we understand, we accept what our product is for. I don't think the other companies, you know, are like kind of hush hush about it, you know?
If you're producing a product to be smoked with cannabis, why would you not produce the product for cannabis smokers? Like there's so many products that we use as cannabis smokers that were produced for another industry. And it's like, well, it's not really tailored to us. It's just something we adopted. That's
we're heating
completely
nails.
Different convo, bro. Yeah, and that's what I love. So what's the difference between the Dudz, the pearls, and what's the other one we just cracked open?
Well, we have the broadleaf pearls, Havana pearls. So we call it broadleaf, Havana, and Dudz. So Dawson, you want to elaborate on them?
Yeah, I mean, basically the easiest way to say it's just like your strong, medium, and light, if you will, both in color and smoke. With, you know, the black broadleaf being the darkest, most robust, Havana medium, all the Dudz would be lighter and thinner. So we don't obviously use flavors, you know, there's no chemicals or stuff. So we get our flavor from the tobacco, the regions it's grown, the climate, the soil, all that. So that's where the flavor comes from. So we try to have something for everybody, whether you like the big nicotine throat hit or, you know, someone like you who's not a passionate blunt smoker, you know, like a broadleaf, you'll feel that in your throat.
Like if I'm smoking OG, I'm going heavy leaf.
Yeah.
And if I'm smoking a candy, I'm going light leaf because
that's literally, I've been saying that for so long.
Yeah, no,
we've never had this conversation.
Because that's how I would play it is I would want all three as a smoker. And now I'm tailoring my experience or my flavor combos. And then, why not try the darker leaf with some other flavors just to see what your thoughts are if you are as in tune as you think you are, right? Because there's always something to be surprised with.
So if you look, there's a clear spectrum, and I'll show the camera where the Dudz are on the right, the Havana's in the middle, and then the broadleaf is on the left. And you know, while we're chatting, I'll pull these open to show you as well that there's, you know, a texture variation mostly between the two dark ones, where like dark in the blunt world, you know, dude, I had to respond to a YouTube comment today. Someone saying, well, it's not dark. Why is it, you know, it was a $20 leaf from it on not even our fucking blunts. It was a different leaf, but it was a light colored leaf. And I said, look, just because it's dark, just because it's not dark doesn't mean it's not good. It's like, you know, for light tobacco, like specifically our cap, it's super labor intensive because it's grown under cheesecloth. It's called Connecticut shade. They literally grow in the shade, you know, like as the plant grows, they literally have a string to the plant and they have to adjust it. And as it grows, there's tension. There's no tension in the plant. There's slack. You got to adjust that shit. Just like, I guess a trellis kind of.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so I love this, what you're doing right now too, is that these were built to unwrap.
Mm-hmm.
So many other tobacco blunts that we've had in the past, you have to either crack open or you slice it, or there's like a dissection period so that you don't fuck it up.
Yeah.
This was built to unwrap, so it's very easy to unwrap.
That's the whole, I actually tried to get a patent. It's surprisingly hard to get a patent on cigars because they're pretty, wrapper, binder, filler. How much more variety can you get? But it's like a modular cigar. It's designed to have the cap come off. There's no glue. It unrolls itself. And then there's another capsule, if you will, containing
and then Lance,
filler.
by the way, there's, for the inners, this is why I could get 10 blunts out of a 5-pack. So if what you're holding right now, you can see that the Dudz are obviously a lighter colored leaf, and that's just whenever there's an error in the batch and we get light leaves, they have a home now. At one point, we were just putting them in bags, not knowing what to do with them.
So interesting. People wouldn't want the light leaf as much, where me coming from papers, that would be what I'd gravitate towards first, would be like something very light and very see-through, right? Very thin.
They're the silent majority of smokers.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
The vocal group, has this misconception that dark equals good. And that's not always true. A dark cigar, they call it Maduro, and Maduro just means, if you kind of translate it to Spanish, it means kind of ripe. Like a fruit or something will get sweeter and riper with its color. That's all a darker leaf is slightly more, sweeter naturally through the fermentation.
Dude, I can't express enough to smokers to find your experience. Don't follow somebody else. Like someone can put you onto something and then now perfect it for your palate, and that's what I see this. Like, this is unbelievable in my opinion, that look at all these offerings.
So Lance, to take it one step further, the Dudz 5-packs and singles are typically broadleaf Dudz. So it's a thicker, lighter leaf. If you look at those two leaves, the one that you put down and that one, the one you're holding is thicker. This one right here, that's a Dud 20, and it's a little bit thinner. So, there's variation for everything, you
can feel the difference.
Yeah. And you can taste the difference. So whatever experience you want to craft, you can, we have.
Man, I love the smell of this one though.
The broadleaf is
the broadleaf is the most unique thing ever, man.
Beautiful really nose on this, man. Like, even for me not being a traditional tobacco enthusiast, I can really, that's intoxicating. I start to go down damn, I want to put some weed in this one. I love that, man.
Come visit our cigar factory in Tampa. That's the basement smells like that.
So we worked at the cigar factory, and my very first job, it was literally in the basement working with broadleaf. There's a steam wheel where they do the Havana to make it moist, but for the broadleaf, we age it down there. And we have these little crates, and there's 2 crates. One's filled and one's empty. So you heat up, you wet the tobacco, and natural compost fermentation, the center gets hot. After a few days, it's time to flip it. So then you take the top off and the bottom, so the top becomes the bottom. Everything rotates, and you do that every few days for a few weeks until it's ready to go. That's in the Tampa for the down the Nicaragua. They're doing that for 9 months, not in little bales. They're in giant pilones with 2,600 pounds of tobacco, and they're flipping it every 7 days to get it.
So when you're going down there for purchasing or making sure hey, this batch is ready for us, was this last year's crop or was this 8 months ago?
So we're in 25 now. So that crop came up probably early 23. So we're buying a couple years ahead. And what's crazy, one little tangent, our pearls, Havana pearls, the white packs, there was a volcanic eruption in Ecuador that ruined a whole crop of, the ash fell on the tobacco. You can't smoke it. So, that's something that we're just now kind of feeling that the effects of years later, that was 2022, 23. So, it's not like, oh, you grow a plant, tobacco grows really quick, actually, just in a few weeks. But, it's, minimum 16 months, 3 plus 5, people go crazy with their aging, but yeah. So it's not like it's just, you pick it off the plant, put it in a mason jar, it's good to go. It's
It takes a long
lot of time.
So if you have a crazy, let's say, dry season or wet season, or there's some type of disruption in the growing process, 2 years from now, you'll see the effects of that in the tobacco.
A hailstorm is the worst thing that could happen to tobacco.
Yeah. The hailstorm hit in Central Florida, last year, and ruined our friend's crop, the only crop in Florida. There was a lot of rain up in New York, 2 years ago? When was that? But I guess, and more rain makes than broadleaf.
So interesting, bro. Stuff like that.
We're dealing with forces we can't, for the sake of consistency, these forces are beyond our control. This is a higher power that's controlling the weather, and there's a lot of luck involved in growing. I'm good.
Yeah, just know that if you're smoking a perfect leaf right now, God had something to do with it as well. Yeah, man. Honestly, because you're against all the forces of nature. It's the same thing with outdoor growers in Humboldt, where they're hoping like it doesn't get cold before this date, it doesn't get rainy until this date, and they're hoping to predict it, and you're playing this game. And it's so interesting that if right now the weather, they've had a tough season, you're going to be buying that tobacco 2 years from now. So it's almost a predictor, and you can start to see the correlations, and you'll be able to now predict like, oh, dude, next year we're going to be able to buy one of the best crops we've seen. Wow, that's where it gets special, because now you can take those best crops and say, let's do the barrel with this very specific barrel, or let's
Cultivators, under canopy lighting is changing the game. And with that, Faven Under Canopy Lighting. They're one of our premier sponsors, and it's a brand we truly believe in. If you want to check out favenlighting.com, you can get all the answers to what under canopy is and is how it's changing the game. And guess what? You're family, so we hook you up. The code is FSOTD, and you get hooked up with Faven Lighting. They put together a full layout of how you would set your facility or grow room up using their under canopy lighting. Whether you're using CMH, double-ended, fluorescents, LEDs, it doesn't matter. Faven Lighting has you covered. Go to favenlighting.com, use the code FSOTD, get hooked up, and change your grow game. Come on, cultivators.
That's the vision, the direction we want to go towards, is getting those, really special crops. And
so basically, we started out at our family factory, this was during the cigar boom during COVID. They basically kicked us out, Our factory manager has another factory, and we were producing there, and Dawson spent a lot of time, and we just wanted to bring things back now that there's room at Tampa or
at the family factory.
At the family factory. So, even feeling that, that's why we're out of stock right now. We had to go and get everything up and rolling, like these are all new people rolling, new cigars. So, just getting everyone dialed in, literally one by one. It was really, really fun trip. And we had some free time to roll some pearls ourselves, and, it's fun, but it's a whole progression thing, and, getting people up and running. So for us, yes, the family has been running for forever, but we're still small business. We're still figuring it out. And to make a change like that, we're at our family factory. We can, walk around and do whatever we want. And, if we want, like I said, we've got some Brazilian tobacco, there's the premium side, there's a manager who we're friends with, and he gave us this leaf to try out. And we went back to our station and, cut it up and rolled some mini pearls, and just being able to try that. So now that we're at our family factory, once we're getting our production up to speed, which will be another month, 2 months, how long until this podcast comes out?
So all the podcasts we record 6 to 8 weeks ahead. And I know for some people, they won't get why. And this is why, because now we can get through the edits.
Oh yeah.
We can make sure that the outcome, like, hey, what do we think of the quality of this pod? We can also make sure you guys are happy with it. Some people, they don't care at all. They're like, dude, I was there. I know what I said. And then other people are like, I'd love to have my team watch it, or my wife, or my, their head grower wants to, because they mentioned him a bunch, or they're telling stories sometimes and they want to get the facts straight. Some people think like, oh, why would you edit it? Because they don't want to put misinformation out.
Hey, dude, they made me get on the content grind, and
I wanted to talk to you about this.
I have to do all my editing. I have to do all my recording. I do it at all. So I know it's brutal. And that's why I was making the joke. This must suck to edit, because it's just, I'm making 30-second little stupid videos,
Dude, a lot of people that either have worked with us too behind the scenes, And like we talk about this in any business. My stepdad said this one time and gave me a really great piece of information that your top employees will probably end up becoming your competitors at some point. And the hardest part about having a great employee is keeping them, because some of the best ones have their own vision as well.
We just lost our COO.
And so that's the tough part, is that cohesiveness of like, you have a vision. I wanted to ask you, do you think that Brothers Broadleaf will ever become bigger than Newman?
JC, no.
I don't
because
know.
I think it can.
This is a threat. You wouldn't think they would go hand in hand. If you talk tobacco, they're like, oh, weed. I'm sure they're lobbying against cannabis. I don't know if you could kind of speak to that.
All the premium cigar, like there's a premium cigar association, and they're all fighting the FDA. They're all like, it's all of the big brands, the cigar brands that they honestly like, they sell certain toast packs that they put money together for lobbyists, So granted, their competition, but your friend of your friend of your enemy, or whatever that saying is, I don't know.
So, but the FDA is who they're battling the most.
Yeah,
with.
That's the biggest threat.
Just trying to get exemption.
The FDA, there's a 52% tax to import cigars. So if say it's $1 to make it, add 52 cents to it. So it's extremely expensive. And then on top of that, there's what they call the FDA user fees, because they want to regulate the industry. So the user fees, they calculate like a percentage of the cost of the cigar and the quantity. And, it works out to be like 3% or something of the cost per cigar that you have to pay towards the FDA for you to be regulated. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense. There's no way to, scientifically study tobacco, what's in it. So they're just kind of taking people's money right now. It's going in the pot, and it's just kind of sitting in, cases and court battles right now. So that's the biggest threat. And that's what we're fighting up against more than anything is just the politics of the tobacco, unfortunately.
Wow, it's so crazy, because in cannabis, we think we're a new industry and this is what we're about to go through. And then to look at tobacco and how old that is, and that they're still going through that.
And it's like small tobacco versus corporate, because a lot of the Cuban brands that are rolled in Cuba are owned by the corporate, the people that make the blunt wrap, I
want to say that one of the first products to ever be taxed was tobacco and cigars by Abraham Lincoln to fund the Civil War. I need that fact checked. Yeah, there's some. Yeah,
we need our Jamie, our Joe Rogan Jamie.
But I want to say there's some deep history with tobacco being one of the earlier taxes to fund, the Union Army. So it's, we're no stranger to being taxed. We understand it. We're Americans. We love America. You got to pay your fair share.
Yeah.
But there also has to be
52% is pretty crazy.
You can't be taxed.
There's so many parallels to cannabis.
Yeah.
Because we think we're overtaxed, and then you look at you and you're like, oh, it's a little bit more than us. So do you get around that if you grow the tobacco in the US?
That's a good question. I don't know if I have.
Because you said you have a friend who has a regulation.
Say no, because this is something that we could speak on that Dawson and I were saying that's like a really cool fact. Like the broadleaf is grown in Connecticut, and then they ship it by container down to the Dominican for sortation.
Where it's purchased. They have a sorting facility in Dominican. Customers can go look at it, purchase it, and then they sell it, ship it to whatever factory. In our purposes, they'll ship it to the port in Honduras to be put on a truck to Nicaragua to be fermented more, then produced, put back on a truck to Honduras, on a boat to Miami, and then ultimately to Tampa. So that's just the path. That's just the path for one product. For just the broadleaf is just that path. So then you got to do it again for the binder, which comes from Indonesia. So think about that boat ride. Yeah. And so there's a lot of moving pieces, man.
Wow, that's really interesting. You don't think that. You think, well, it's in Connecticut, so just go pick it up.
Just go pick it up and put it up.
And it's like, no, the process. That's why I had to ask you with years, because we're smoking tobacco from 2 years ago. And then now with the right cigars, I'm guessing they're aging them even further. Do you have people that like to age yours or hit you up about aging some of them?
I mean, not necessarily. We do have a tech called Marination Tech, which it says on the back of the barrel series. When you smoke a barrel series, it's you can definitely taste something different. But if you roll a blunt and put it back in the bag for at least an hour, no more than a day, because the moisture will get too much in the flower and burn bad. But if you put it in for half a day, like if you do a dry pull on it, you can physically feel the alcohol. Just like when you smell hand sanitizer, it hits you. It's not gross like hand sanitizer, but it's a textured feel. So if you marinate your blunt with like pre-rolled, it's a textured feel. It's insane. It's the most unique thing ever, So it's, little things like that. Yeah. I want to do it for you and let you experience that.
I would love that, man. That's why I love the barrel series. It's just, it starts to get real interesting. I do want to ask, what's it like growing up in a tobacco family as a little kid? Is that like part of your heritage? You guys talk about that a lot. Was that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It was always a running joke because every family dinner, our grandmother, she'd always just bang on the table, like, talk social. The whole family's coming together. We're, 6-year-olds. We're all just talking about, business and whatever events coming up. And so it's just so deeply ingrained in us, like growing up. Like,
there's a photo of my mom on Cigar Aficionado pushing my brother in front of the White House or the Capitol, and Dawson's in a baby stroller, and she's smoking a big old cigar.
It's somewhere, but yeah, it's we'll have to dig that out.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, it was so normal for us. I mean, we always just, it wasn't really family trips, vacations was like, where are we going to sell cigars? What. We go to Vegas for the cigar convention, and then we're doing, business dinners, and that was our kind of childhood, which we loved. It's fun, it's cool.
Did they take you down to Honduras and things where they source their tobacco as well as kids?
We went to the Dominican a lot.
Yeah, a lot of trips in the Dominican. Yeah. And then in 2012, I want to say, is when the family opened up the factory in Nicaragua, and we started going down there. So
a little earlier, yeah. But so then now Dawson spends a lot of time in Nicaragua, and
great country, beautiful people,
freaking beautiful over there.
They grow the
best tobacco. Amazing. The tobacco is amazing. The cats are amazing. Yeah, a lot of awesome street cats.
Butts up against Costa Rica, correct?
Yeah, to the south.
Yeah, because when I was out in Costa Rica for 18 days, and I remember them just pointing like Nicaragua right there.
I've heard stories where people go to Costa Rica, like Americans will go and they just stay there. They don't ever, they book like a one-way ticket. Is it like?
I could see that.
Yeah.
So Rex, who started Power SI, right? He is part of Drip Hydro and like an awesome, real hands-on used to be grower, like badass dude, has a name. He opened grow stores in Costa Rica and it's becoming like a big thing. I think they have 2 or 3 now.
Down there?
Yeah, bro.
No way.
Yeah.
What are the laws like down there?
I don't know. I only know enough that like they have 2 or 3 like full functioning grow stores. Like if you were in Cali, damn near, where you walk in, they got the nutrients, the pumps, everything for full setups. Yeah. In Costa Rica. And they're on their 2nd or 3rd shop now. And he knows the products you need to actually have proper crops, and it was so interesting because I thought, it'll be a lot of greenhouse and stuff. And it's like, no, dude, some indoor, there's some high end. It makes sense because when I was in Costa Rica to this day, besides going to an actual grower somewhere, this was the best weed I ever bought just through random people on the beach.
Oh, on the beach?
Costa Rican surfer. Dude, I brought enough weed for like 2 weeks because I was out there for 18 days. And then I just didn't expect other people always also want to smoke now because it's so good. So even if they weren't big into smoking before, when they're around you and you're next thing you know, they're like, hey, can I get in on this? And so now you start blowing through that weed. Right. And so we got to the point where like, we're on the beach for like, I think 4 or 5 days to end the trip. And I was like out of weed. And so we were down on the beach and I just smelled some beautiful, like almost bubblegummy scent. And I looked down, it was some surfers in Costa. And so at the time I asked my girl, like, hey, go talk to him.
You sent her?
Yeah.
No, bro.
Because me walking up, I'm like a white dude too, and I have like a short haircut. Like I've been in situations where like, no, I have to almost like prove I'm not a cop.
Yeah.
So no, and she's a cute little blonde girl. So I was like, hey, go see what's up. And so she walked over and then, talking, she was like, and so I walked over and we hopped in this dude's like van and he pulled out a mason jar, and he had trimmed every bud to where it was about 1 gram. So every bud was about the same size. So if they were trimming buds up, he would just try to make them all about the same size. And so he just asked us like, yo, $20 a bud. They're all supposed to be 1 gram. And so I was like, cool, we'll take
just eyeball it. Makes it easy.
Take that jar.
Everyone knows on the beach, you getting weed in like, the Bahamas, all the jet ski guys. It's trash.
Jet ski guys.
No, they got the big sticks,
Yeah.
Oh no, this was AAA, like hydro, and it was like bubble gum. Like I remember smoking it and being like, dude, this is as good as you would get at the time, like in Florida from guys I know who grow. This dude grew it, like for sure.
That's fucking awesome.
It's either he grew it or like he's friends with the guy who grew it and they handed him the jar because no, it was fire, but it makes sense that it's popping down there in Nicaragua.
Yeah. And there's no cannabis scene in Nicaragua.
No,
we don't fuck around there, man. You know.
So you go down there and you're traveling there, and now your family's still going down there.
Yeah.
So now you're down there with your family still.
Sometimes I kind of started out that way because it is a little intimidating at first as a, when I was 25 going to, a country alone, but
and it was a dangerous place.
The people are amazing. And so, yeah, sometimes our trips will line up and it's nice to have, a mentor. Like, my uncle mostly runs the production and he's, been doing this for his whole life. He's 70s and 75, 76 now. So
we were there.
He's been doing this for 55, 60 years since he was a child too. So it's great to have a mentorship and, have the history to not make those mistakes that they've all made in the past, but I'm confident enough now to go down there. I can speak cigar factory Spanish, I can order food. I need, pollo and papas fritas. And, I know what I want in my tobacco and I can get through, so.
That's epic, man. That is so cool.
Just a little gringo boy, down there, but it works. It works.
And it's cool that naturally we've found, because I went to school for biology. I did focus on plant studies. I thought I was going to grow weed or something. I didn't know before the JC Newman and Dawson, it was a business guy and marketing. I don't know.
Yeah. Marketing and sales.
And even, he was 2 weeks into a master's program for entrepreneurship when he decided to drop out and come, do this full time. And, but we've found our natural holes where, if you email Brothers Broadleaf and I have to respond, you're probably not going to get punctuation, like proper punctuation, proper spelling. I'm not, and it's because I get the point across and I'm sending the message with love, but it's just like, cranking it, that's from the nature of doing DMs for 4 years straight, 7 days a week, responding to every single person that's ever DM'd us. And I've made a lot of friends through that. And that's one reason I do love coming to California is like, I see people through their tiny little emojis or their icons and now meeting them in person it's awesome.
Or how they want to portray themselves, right? Sometimes it feels real big online. And you meet them and it's very personable.
Yeah.
It's like a real friendship. It's weird. It's like you've been texting and DMing people. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to get out more.
And there's still people that, I've chatted with for 4 years. Like I've never personally met Roll BMC, but, we've chatted with them a lot. Same with, there's a lot of people like that, but me having to do all the DMs and stuff, Dawson naturally is very, if you ask him a question, he'll think for a few seconds before he responds. And that's not my nature. And so, handling all of the business logistics, making sure cigars come in, he's good with Excel and can do projections. And it's stuff that I could not do,
I have a problem of thinking too much to a fault. And he has a problem of thinking too little to a fault. So somewhere between, we complement each other that way. Cause it's like, whoa, slow down. And he's like, come on, Dawson, let's get your shit together and just make a decision,
Good balance.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And literally like everything that he wants to do, I don't, and vice versa. So and naturally it just came about that way, so I don't think we'll ever have any problems in the future because we just want to make great blunts.
Yeah. But you're also really great at media. How important is that to your business?
Now it's my entire, if I'm not sorting cigars, I'm making content, which I love, but like sometimes it's also like banging my head against the wall too. I was always, and I can speak for both of us, we were YouTube kids. We grew up watching like early YouTube and like, we don't watch Netflix, Hulu, our girlfriends and fiancés hate it. Like we watch YouTube, So like, I love the small content creators, like doing fun things and, you got to start somewhere. So it was actually, just listening to people online talking about like just post, and people in California, Colin and Samir, they're YouTubers that they're fantastic. And so I slowly got into, just trying it. We were making the joke that I had a video, my last video that I just posted, it was the first video in like 2.5 years that went viral. On Instagram, viral meaning more than 100% of our followers. It's at like 120,000. On YouTube, we have videos at 9 million and like 15 of them over 1 million views. Our YouTube is doing extremely well, but the Instagram isn't. And the first video that I had go viral, I sat in the car in the summer to do my voice through my phone because like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. You know, I didn't have a mic. It was my iPhone, and then just trying to do it every day at one point, because I'm a bodybuilder. I would wake up at 5 starving, and I would work out at 9. So I would try to get a video done before 9. You know, so I'm driving thinking of videos, and I would record my intros on my phone. So I would have, and I favorite it. So my favorites is just selfie videos of just hundreds of things I haven't gotten to yet. And then it's the creativity that, you know, I obviously love everything that we do, but nothing was like the early days of like coming up with the packaging and the names and like all that. It's so much fun, you know, making new shit. So that's why I love the content, is like, now that I have help with the direct messages on Instagram, it's freed up like 40 fucking hours of my time, and she can do it a lot better because that's her only job. I'm trying to get through it quick and not giving punctuation because I have 9 other things to do. So it's better for the business. And now it's open my free time to just make videos, you know?
That's huge.
They're stupid, silly videos, but I love it, you know, and hopefully I'll get better. And, you know, this is a year and a half in, and I have a grow tent. You'd like this. I have a grow tent at my office. I bought I don't even know the brand. It was on Amazon. I should have used one of your sponsors. I apologize. I budgeted it. I spent $60 on an LED light, and I have 6 tobacco plants. And I'm going to do a long form YouTube video where I grow my own blunt wrap all the way to age it inside, you know, do it all.
Oh man. Next time you reach out to me, Grow Generation will step up, and they will put a really crazy setup on our tab. Either First Smoke or Grow Gen will handle it.
I would love to support. I would love to support.
Dude,
and whenever Florida does legalize it, I do want to grow a bunch in Florida. But just
what nutrients are you using?
Oh, none.
Oh, dude, we got to get you on drip.
I do. Yeah, that's true. Honestly, yeah.
Because if not, you'll probably get some leaching unless you're using some type of top.
Dude, I am doing
fertilizer.
Nothing.
Oh yeah,
nature. I'm using Miracle Grow soil.
No, dude, no. Listen. You're going to get the ultimate. We need the ultimate inputs into these tobacco plants. So we like.
Do the Drip Hydro guys, do they smoke blunts? Because I can give them a super rare blunt.
I'm sure they enjoy blunts. I mean, he's a really super hash guy, but also you got Bear, which is a Golden State cultivator, and he's like one of the top growers in the state.
Is that the banana?
No, that's a different one.
Okay.
Yeah. Is that the banana?
I just know the
Golden
logo.
State banana. Yeah. He's killing it. He's in Jersey now, I think. Man, that's sick though, to grow up in a tobacco family and then to have it evolve into like the cannabis industry and being tailored towards this. Cause it always felt like from the outside that big tobacco was against cannabis and lobbying against it. And to see how your family's not been like, no, you can't. No. Like, you've made your own way, and then also like make your family proud. I mean, what are they most enthused about when you talk to your family about what you guys are doing?
For my father, my uncle, and my cousin, they're the 3 active ones in the family, and all they know is like what we know, just the cigar industry, and this is what they love to do. It's a genuine. That's what they do when they wake up. They're excited to go to work, and I think they're just happy to see that continued. I mean, we have our family, I think, kind of shares a sense of responsibility because we do operate the largest and last remaining operating cigar factory in the United States. So there's a sense of responsibility there, being the last of the, at one point there was, how many, 10,000, 40,000, in the early 1900s.
Book, yeah.
And, little by little, just for tax reasons, labor reasons, they've all kind of moved away or gone out of business. So we are the last family still operating, in the United States, like the old days. And so there's a sense of responsibility. So I think the family is just happy to see that tradition passed on. And that's what we love to do. So
they say family businesses crash after 3 generations or something like that, and my brother and I, I love what I do. Dawson loves what he does, and I don't think we're ever going to retire,
Mm-mm.
Something that you can impart to people who are chasing a dream, because this is a big dream. You're a disruptor, and there's very few businesses or industries, in my opinion, that you can get in right now, and it's rare to find someone that just disrupts the whole industry. I know Kanye is not a big hot topic, but for what he did with Adidas with the Yeezys, and that he's a disruptor. Like anything he does, it just turns into, and then all the brands are paying attention. Whatever he does just disrupts. I put you guys in that category. There's, Elon's a disruptor. There's like, you can point to these people who get into industries and just disrupt the whole industry. Before Elon, it was just NASA. That was it. Now you got Bezos. All these people are getting into rocket propulsion and stuff. It's like, yeah, he's a disruptor. Now people realize like, oh, we could do this too. And so I'm sure you've seen a lot of that too. You're the inspiration for a new generation of people who are like, man, I'm so passionate about blunt smoking, or now they're going to be growing tobacco in their backyard that they want to pair and learn how to make what's some advice you could give any entrepreneurs?
I would honestly say, like, regardless of what you're doing, the entrepreneur journey is magical. Like there's a quote from Warren Buffett saying, like, as long as you don't make a mistake big enough, like, to put you out of the game, you're never a failure. And we've made a lot of fucking mistakes that almost put us out of the game. And I would love in like 3 years to come back and, dive more into like the early stages of Brothers Broadleaf and like the shit that, mistakes we've made and the things we've learned, but just like go for it, like as corny as that sounds, there's always rooms for improvement. And, in a capitalist market, you're going to have to improve things. And if you're just going to make something that everyone else has made, like my grandfather said, everyone can make something cheaper, but making something like expensive, making something quality that people want, anyone can make it cheaper and beat you on price. So play the quality game, and, you're not going to be the biggest and you're not going to grow the fastest. And, it's going to be a lot of, long hours, but if you love it, it's all worth it. And it's just an amazing journey, and it'll pay off in the long run, hopefully, for anyone. And if not, you get a lot of experience and a hell of a time. And yeah, just go for it.
If you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, So I was given some advice when I was at a crossroads. Do I go get my graduate degree, or do I, start Brothers Broadleaf? And I had a great mentor, just like you had great mentors growing, to get to where you are. He's like, hey, school's always going to be there. If you see an opportunity, go for it. And the worst thing that happens is you fail, you go back to school, you try again. And I think that's the biggest thing that we've learned is just like, we've taken a lot of L's, but I think it's just getting back up and keep going. And just like, it's got to work, it's got to work because, it's this. And, I appreciate my time at Anheuser-Busch, but stocking shelves and grocery stores, it's, it was not for me, and if it is, and it's great, but, I like to create and make cigars and make people happy. It's cool that we can find a product, and that's any advice is if you can create value and create something that people feel and enjoy, I think people will, gravitate towards whatever that feeling, because we don't want to sell just a product. It's a feeling, it's smoking a cigar, you're creating memories, you're sharing it, having conversations about whatever, and it doesn't matter where you're from, how you vote. I think people can kind of come together with products like these and, create feelings. So that's, if you can provide a product like that, I think it'll all work out. I'm an optimist, glass half full,
Favorite person this has put you in front of?
That one I'd have to think about, but the craziest moment, early
it's
days.
You, Lance.
Nah.
This is by far the most insane experience. This is our first in-person big podcast. So first off, you, by the way, meeting your dad was awesome. Mm-hmm. Meeting you for the first time this time last year. But I was living at my parents' house, before my fiance was living in Tampa, and I got a FaceTime, and I don't answer random FaceTimes. And it was New Jersey, and I answer it, and it was Fetty Wap. And, he was already DMing us at this time, but it was cool as shit. And my dad has no idea who he is. He's 71, but yeah, that was cool.
That's what's funny too, though, is because like you're excited about it. This is what we were talking to earlier. And you're like, no, it's like a big rapper. And your family's probably like, oh, that's cool. And you're like, no, but he's like a big deal. And they were like, yeah, that sounds great. And you're like, oh God. And you have to take that win, and you just know that like, it's cool that you guys have each other because you can share those wins. Right. And it's, that's been like one of my biggest aging things is that if you don't have someone to share the win with, you start to realize like, oh man, this feels way different.
There's a book, Into the Wild, where, the guy went off and he literally in his diary, he wrote like, happiness isn't nothing without shared. I butchered the quote, but you need happiness you need to share it with someone for true happiness. And he was alone.
It's so true, man. You find yourself when you get older in certain times of life where you'll have a win and you want to tell somebody, but your parents are so disconnected or your people are disconnected from your dream that they can't understand the win. It just doesn't compute that it's like, wow, this is huge. So you start to be like, you're in like you find yourself in a room, you're like, yes.
Well, I'll tell you, when you texted us about this, we all fucking celebrated.
Oh, dude. I mean, bro, first smoke of the day, like we're for smokers and you guys are disrupting the industry. Like if I'm a blunt smoker, man, I'm smoking Brothers Broadleaf, bro. And now that I have them here, I'm excited about having them, bro. Like I smoked this one. I could easily see getting into because I want to start pairing these. I start to go like, okay, I've had that. Now I want to try this.
You got enough weed. You can start going.
I want to do
experimenting and stuff. Fuck yeah, man.
The next is I saw Fidel do a collab where they did tobacco rolled hash holes. And I was like, dude, that is so dope.
Yeah, dude, it's fantastic. There's a lot of awesome rollers, Aiden PBR, JK Rolling, obviously BMC. We met Must Be Nice last night. But yeah, there's a lot of cool rollers doing a lot of cool shit, man.
And Roll BMC is traditionally a tobacco roller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a whole leaf guy too, a whole leaf. But I mean, in terms of rolling, dude, he is the biggest. Everyone, if you're deep in the rolling game, you know who Roll BMC is,
100%. I mean, his shit's like art, but man, it's been so dope to be able to sit down with you guys and really dive into some of the family business, but then also your passion to kind of create your own lane and to see where it's at now. And we just know it's going to be massive, bro. It'll be so interesting to see what this evolves to.
We're excited too.
Yeah.
We see a path forward, I think, and there's a lot of cool things that we could do is just create stuff that people enjoy. And it's such a pleasure. You asked, cool. Everyone that we've met is amazing. Just the fact that people share the same mentality and passion for stuff like this. It's incredible. So hopefully we can share with you guys.
And then where can people pick up the newest drops?
We're out of stock right now, and our apologies.
So nowhere.
We restock our website every 21 days, Sundays at 3 p.m. We're going to have limited inventory for by the time this comes out, it should be good. And then also we've worked extremely hard on a subscription program, the first truly legal blunt auto ship program. It comes with a lot of fun things. I work a lot of, I write notes that Dawson and I sign. We wax dip them. I made custom Oreos last time. Everyone's getting tobacco seeds and a note how to grow it. It's just another time for me to be creative, but the subscription program we've worked very hard on. So we should be opening that up again. It's closed right now, but we should be opening that up by the time this comes out.
And that's something I would subscribe. And then every week or two or month?
Every 21 days, because we restock, we get a shipment in every 21 days. We QC it. Once it's ready to go, ship it out to you.
It's guaranteed. You order one time and then, you can always, of course, we're not predatory. If you want to cancel it
at any time.
Yeah.
That's dope,
you can change
and then
it.
I'm sure you can scale it to where if I want 25 packs on my subscription, I can do that.
Yeah, if you want 1 5-pack or you want 4 boxes, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, man, that's really
we
cool.
don't want to, take advantage of people. It's truly for people who just want to smoke good blunts.
Oh yeah. And then I don't want to have to make sure that I get on that drop, because sometimes I might have shit going on.
And we understand it's a lot to ask of people.
We have a little calculator with all of our products of, hey, how many blunts do you smoke? And this is how much you would need for 21 days. Because, we see people changing their subscriptions, up it, down it. And then you find, we're consistent smokers. You say you need a half ounce when you travel. I smoke heavy. So I smoke a lot of blunts, not heavy, a lot of weed. But, you know how much you smoke, you place your order. And after, 2 cycles, it's dialed. And then you never have to worry about it ever again. And, yeah. So definitely the subscription program. It's brothersbroadleaf.com. Check out our Instagram. Check out our YouTube. Hopefully by the time this comes out, my plant will be bigger. And yeah, hopefully we can do this, again in a few years, and we can dive more into all of the mistakes we've made.
Dude, I want to do it in a couple of years in Nicaragua at the factory, or we need to do it in Tampa at the, like, we need to do it, you know, on site, and like, let's pull out some leaves, or let's, you know, I don't know, something.
Anytime you come home, come up to Tampa. And, we'd love to take you around.
I'm from Sarasota, so it's not far at all, bro. Like,
come on,
just come over the Skyway Bridge, and
we used to go to Tampa as kids to get in trouble. You know, anytime we really wanted to get into some shit, we would make the trip to Tampa. Yeah. But dude, it's awesome having you guys on, man. And follow their journey, and you got to see if you can get a hold of this barrel series. If you're really a true blunt smoker, honestly, you have to try Brothers Broadleaf. If you haven't, you're missing out. There's a reason these guys are on the pod. It's because this is connoisseur smoke. There's a lot of talk about if tobacco smokers can really tell blunts and this and that. This is the top shelf of tobacco. So I really implore you to try their product with weed and see what you think, because like, we always used to gravitate towards, you know, the brands, and then the stuff you'd find inside the blunt guts, you'd be like, this isn't even tobacco. So it's awesome to find people who are taking the same care as we take into growing the weed as they are into the cigar.
And it makes a beautiful thing when it comes together.
You can see all the connoisseurs popping out with them. Like when I'm around blunt smokers, these packs are coming out.
Lance, that's the dream.
Yeah.
That's a dream.
Thank you.
It's 100% true. That's how we got put on to you. We get around guys that are real blunt smokers, but they're also putting the best weed in California in the blunt. And then you start to realize, like, dude, when we're in New York, it's kind of the same thing. And then you start to gravitate towards these groups, and you realize, like, it's the same thing with papers, bro. People will be like, oh, this and that. It's like, dude, we smoke elements and we smoke raws. And if we're smoking raw, we smoke king size blacks. And if we're smoking elements, it's king size wides. And now they got the king size wide blacks. And I love the ethereals, and I'm messing with the phantoms now, but it's the same thing, is that like, we are always chasing the most enjoyable experience. So if you are a blunt smoker, or if you enjoy tobacco, we would do it as a celebratory thing. Like Friday, yo, it's about to be the weekend. We like, it would always be that. So we would never get tired of it. It was always like, yo, grab a blunt, or like big UFC fight. Yo, grab a pack of blunts, because we'll get those going around too. You know, so I just love the experience, and I love that finally we have a brand that I feel like puts the care and the quality behind it. So Brothers Broadleaf, first smoke of the day. We
carry that torch with honor, man. And if anyone wants to order, use code FSOTD. We'll have 15% off for, I guess, eternity.
Yo.
So yeah, use that code if you want it. If you stayed to the end, you deserve that.
That's
right?
what I figured, bro. Right?
Yeah.
Yo, if you're still listening, they just put you on, bro. And for everyone, you're missing out.
And we respond to every direct message. So shoot us a DM. Make sure it's a verified page on Instagram. And thank you for all of this, man.
And brothersbroadleaf.com?
Brothersbroadleaf.com. Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. First smoke of the day. Get on FSOTD.com. Get on off the mic. We're going to do a little more smoking, a little more rolling. But Brothers Broadleaf, first smoke of the day. We're out. Peace.
Later.
First Smoke family, if you want more video, unreleased content, stuff we can't put on YouTube, you want early drops, weeks and weeks in advance, FSOTD.com gets you all that. You become part of the family, you get hooked up with early content, you get unreleased content we can't put out on YouTube because we get age restricted and we get strikes, the whole deal. FSOTD.com gets you hooked up like family. But if you just want to keep watching, here we go. Let's let another one roll.